across the plains. Hope rekindles in the crimson tide, as freedom's anthem calls our names. Great again, we rise as one, under stars that guide our way. A song of promise has begun, and strength returns in light of day. Fields of dreams are ripe once more. Factories hum with honest pride. Our banner waves on every shore, with courage marching by our side. Great again, we rise as one, under stars that guide our way. A song of promise has begun, and strength returns in light of day. Through trials dark, we found our steel. The eagle's cry breaks through the night. In unity, our wounds now heal. We chase the dawn with fearless light. Great again, we rise as one, under stars that guide our way. A song of promise has begun, and strength returns in light of day.
Still love that drummer.
You know, I have to turn the volume down every time the drummer comes on.
What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? What's up, Anglo? Good to see you, brother. Commander, what's going on? Hey, my sister's here. What's up, sis? What's up, Carrie Ann? The one, the only, the legend, 42 is in the house, guys. Ah, look at this. Jimmy from Philly's in the house as well. And Simon, what's up, brother? Thank you for all for being here. Let's see. What else we got? We got a lot. Man, what a week it's going to be. How are you, Dr. J?
Hanging in. Hanging in.
Okay.
Not terrible. Except I had to go to the dentist today. That's never fun.
How much snow did you get, by the way?
I don't know what the accumulation was, but yeah, I mean, we've been in this heat wave, and then all of a sudden today we get this thick, heavy blanket of really like heavy, wet snow. But you know what? Sun came out. It's almost all melted.
Yeah, cool.
Supposed
That's
to go
good.
down below freezing today.
Yeah, geez, crazy weather, huh? Let's see. Yeah, we got some crazy stuff going on this week. Let's see. Good news. Lots of good news.
Yeah, when I was growing up, we used to be able to blame the Russians for controlling the weather. Hi, Carry On.
Yeah. How about
and
that?
Hello to everybody else out there.
Typing sucks, right? All right. Let's see. Let's go over what we're going to go over.
Do it.
Yeah. Let's see. Jabberhouse.com. All right. So first one, breaking. Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. It is open for business, guys. It's fully open. Okay. And oil prices plunged as Iran completely opens Hormuz. U.S. reportedly mulls $20 billion cash for nukes deal. All right. Take away the nukes. Let us inspect you all the time and all your proxies. and we'll give you 20 billion, except it won't be on pallets in the middle of the night like Pablo fucking Escobar, the way the Obama administration did. Okay.
No, and that's already Iranian money that they're going to release.
Yeah, that's all it is. Judiciary chair confirms House is moving to expunge the Trump impeachment over Ukraine phone call. And the reason for that is, get this, guys, Tulsi Gabbard, you know what? Everybody says, well, he should get rid of her because she disagreed with him on Iran, right? Well, the Democrats love to say stuff like that. However, they go, nobody ever disagrees. Yeah, because you guys are fucking dictators on your side. You know, they'll go after your family if you disagree with them publicly, right? So on our side, you can disagree and still be in the tent, right? So she found, like, here's the thing. It's extremely difficult to get documents of any type or source, anything found in the Espionage Act, right? To get them out of the White House, okay? Because they check your things every single day, coming in and going out. They check it, right? So what these dumbasses did, remember when they put them in burn bags in that room, like with all kinds of boxes and everything, thought nobody'd find them? Yeah, okay. Well, they found them, right? They should have had them burned, but they forgot all the evidence, right? Well, now they found new documents that they put into a room and locked it and threw away the key. Oh, that'll stop them, right? So she broke in, got people to break in, and she found them. And oh crap, it's a boatload of the evidence that we need to prove everybody who was involved in the Crossfire Hurricane bullshit and everything after Crossfire Hurricane, what they did. It's amazing. Here we go. Fresh humiliation for SCOTUS Justice Sotomayor as she has to apologize to Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, to all of us, for a cheap shot that she gave. She's a dumbbell. I'm going to leave it at that. Here we go. DNI Tulsi Gabbard outlines reason for criminal referral of Trump impeachment collaborators. She put a criminal referral over to the FBI on what I was just talking about. Here we go. Commander, I'm sorry, but I'm going to take a swipe at Mark Carney tonight. Mark Carney takes a swipe at Trump and the United States with a whiskey joke in defiant speech. This is a mug I am selling. Lifelong Democrat.
Shameless self-plug there.
You've just heard a shameless plug. Stay tuned for more shameless plugs on RPW Media. All right. So lifelong Democrat spills the beans on what she went through trying to stop Tim Walz's era fraud. That's going to be good. And here we have Trump scorches Swalwell. He's a sleazebag, always has been. That's just the beginning. And here we go. A judge unseals the ATF's ballistics report on the Charlie Kirk assassination by this lunatic. All right, now this woman, House Democrat, declares it's time to eliminate Trump from office. Now, what exactly? I'm sure she got a visit from the Secret Service, right? Let's see. Wait, what? Hunter Biden ditched the U.S. and is now living overseas as legal troubles grow. He's going to try to find like a country that there's no extradition. And then we have, it is impossible to be too cynical about the Democratic legacy media access. It's unbelievable. So here we go. Good news, guys. The Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers just got what they deserved, which is a good thing. All right. They did absolutely nothing wrong. And they should be able to sue the living hell out of the government. All right, you know it's Trump's government, all right, but they should be able to sue the living hell and out of the people personally involved that set them up and lied their asses off about them. The New York Times panics as Trump targets far-left terror at home and abroad. Let's see, Mamdani. Mamdani's wife apologizes for insulting Israel using the N-word and a gay slur in past tweets. This is who they are.
I'm sure she was totally authentic.
She was shocked and offended when she wrote it. Yeah, so I'm telling you, man, the left are the most racist people on earth. Ask any black conservative how they get treated by the left. Apparently, you're allowed to say any low. You're allowed to go to any low, any depth on black conservatives. Hispanic conservatives, not as much, but they still treat them like they're traitors, right? Patriot Freedom Project founder Cynthia Hughes has had enough of the J6 bullshit, and she's going scorched earth. Our redemption is here. The FTC just nuked the censorship cartel's favorite dirty trick. Yeah. All right, here's one. Everybody here. Catholics and Protestants need each other for what's coming. What's coming is a giant assault on Christianity by the left. And I'm not talking, women with blue hair and a septum and an I hate Trump shirt on, right? And a tattoo of mother. I'm talking like real big money going after Christians worldwide. It's a big thing that's coming. Here we go. Eastman disbarred while felon who faked docs gets wrist slap. We'll go over that. It's an interesting story. Gen Z is so effed, but it says cooked. Hey, Tucker, Christianity and Islam have a long and very bitter history. Yeah, Tucker Carlson has lost it. He's lost his mind. Okay, he bought a. Did you know that he bought a house in Qatar? And people go, whoa, wait a minute. Is that why he turned to Islam? Right? He says nice things about Christianity, but then he says nice things about Islam as well. But he says Christianity is number one. He still says that because he wants to have subscribers, right, to his website. But
there's very little nice about Islam. There are some.
There's no nice about Islam.
There's some very nice Muslims.
Yes, Muslims. But, yes, but not Islam.
There's very little nice about Islam.
But yeah, Islam. Like I've always said this. I say, look, any religion where your God tells you to murder innocent people is not a perfect moral God. I'm sorry. It just isn't. And you should not follow something like that. But this is that's why I think Islam is not a religion. I think it's a totalitarian system that was created back then to control the people. All right.
I'll top that. Islam is a death cult.
Well, it is. Yeah. They say, we love death the way the Jews love life. That's what a big thing it is. All right. Millions of Americans. What's that?
There's a lot of history. Do you remember, like back in ancient Egypt?
I wasn't alive. Well, go ahead.
A little before our time, but ancient Egypt, they literally, they wrote the Book of the Dead, right?
Right. Yeah, they did.
They worshipped, that whole thing was a death cult. And I think that's got to be where some of this has come from.
Hey, Linda, what's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. Who else did I miss? I'm going up. I'm going down. All right, cool. So let's see. Millions of Americans to receive massive tax refunds. Now, I usually break even because I don't want them holding on to my money, right? Because they make interest on my money when they take them. See, that's how I say, you want to get rid of the income tax? Trump should make a law that says that every tax-paying American has to write a check every month to the IRS. Every single month. I don't have a way to do it. We'll give you an easy way to do it. All right, write it every goddamn month. And then what happens? There'll be a call. Get rid of this thing. Get rid of it now. All right. So they hold on to your money all year long. So you're going to get a refund. Yeah. But you know what? If you don't give them the money on time, you can be arrested. You get fined, penalized, right? They could take up to 90 days to give you your refund. And you don't get interest on it. You got no interest. So think about the float. That's how PayPal made all their money, was through the float. When you have money and you want to transfer it, to your bank, they'll say, hey, you can do it now for a small fee, or you do it in 3 days. In those 3 days, they make money on the float, right? And so that's what the IRS does. Fact checkers, IRS. Just kidding. All right, so thousands of Virginia jobs at risk after Democrat governor, our favorite, signed a minimum wage hike. Economist warns. They don't care. Let me explain something to you. The only reason why, all right, when Democrats say they want to increase the minimum wage, it has not a damn thing to do with the worker. We want the little guy. They don't give a rat's ass about the little guy. It's about the unions, because the unions throw so much money at them when it comes to elections, right? They take their union dues, which are supposed to be for contract arbitration, to pay for lawyers, all right, to argue on their behalf for better wages and better job. Okay, so they throw that money instead at Democrats because they go, hey, we throw enough money, get enough of them elected, they're going to make laws in favor of us only. Screw the other 89%.
Let's discuss the details when we talk about the story.
Yeah, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do it now so that I'll read the story, because I don't want to get into it then, because I want to read their story. But anyway, so what happens is when the union, when the union ties their wages to the minimum wage. So if the minimum wage goes up 20%, well, the little guy gets what? $1.70? They get like $5-6. That's why they're doing it. It's a payback. She just won an election. Now she has to do a payback. Here we go. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, love her. Eric Swalwell faces decades in prison, and I hope she personally does the case. New probe into the Wiener laptop, insert joke here, after investigators who viewed secret frazzle drip files died. There's one. So Tyler Robinson, judge, unseals the ATF ballistics. All right. Israeli strike on Hezbollah, deadlier than 2024 pager attack, IDF says.
Nice.
Gotta love it. Bessent delivers another powerful blow to Iran. That was worded really. All right. Reveals what may be their fatal mistake. I love the guy. Here we go. Wrongly imprisoned J6 American patriot Joe Biggs reveals his full restoration.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Breaking. Trump claims Iran agreed to surrender the nuclear dust. It's a BFD, right? Says the Washington Post even. Spain is in chaos. Why? Because thousands of migrants swarm consulates after mass amnesty. They all came in through, well, the majority of them came in through Spain, and then they took them to London, and then they went anywhere they want, right? At least that's what the documentary said that I watched. And so now, think about it. They're offering amnesty now, mass amnesty. So now I want in. So they're probably coming. You know what? That's one way for the rest of you guys to get rid of your mind and say, hey, Spain, amnesty, go now. Can't come back, but go.
Yeah, look at the shiny object.
That would be funny as hell, wouldn't it? Here you go. How are Venezuelans feeling months after Maduro's capture? How do you think they are? Okay, so the racist Trump nominates a new CDC director. Okay, enough said. The disease that drives the Democrats crazy. Where's the word crazy? Oh, well. Well, it drives the Democrats. 6 things to know about 2019 impeachment coup against Trump. That's a good one. All right. Unbelievable. After Nick Shirley exposes Somali fraud, California Democrats move to criminalize any similar efforts. They're going to protect fraud. In other words, they're protecting themselves.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's just unbelievable. Nancy Pelosi did not, and you know what? They can't do that if it's federal. If it's federal money, they can't do that. That's a state, right? They can't do it. Nancy Pelosi denies that Democrats turned a blind eye to Eric Swalwell's behavior. No idea whatsoever. Yeah, okay.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where was all this Democrat anger when these images of Obama as Jesus were everywhere? Did you guys hear about the meme that went around of Trump dressed like Jesus? He had a white cassock on, and he had the red around it, and he put his hand on a sick man's head. Okay, you saw that?
I didn't see it.
Oh, okay, we'll get into it. All right, because the meme creator spoke out about it, and it makes all these a-holes. They're trying to get. All right, we'll get into it later. Russia, Tehran, and China are throwing ads out there with memes trying to sow discord among Americans. All right, that's what that's a part of. This is the a-hole Judge Boasberg. All right, so vindictive Trump-hating Judge Boasberg gets a judicial beatdown that he needed. I wish it was a real beatdown. Now, I watched this last night. This guy's really, if you're a Christian, guys, this guy's really good. All right. It says this might be the best 3 minutes of preaching I've ever seen. If you don't feel this is in your soul, you need to check your pulse because it's true. It's a very good story. It's from an Irishman who told a story at a crowd. It's really good. You'll like it. Breaking House votes 224 to 204 to extend temporary protected status. Can you believe this? Of 350,000 Haitians for 3 freaking years. And guess what? My goddamn congressman, Brian Worthless Fitzpatrick, actually voted for it. So I'm going to write to him, tell him what a dick he is, and he's going to send another pamphlet and lay it on my steps. He's done it twice already to me. Trump said he's trying to, I don't know why. Who the hell am I, right? Trump says White House is investigating mysterious deaths and disappearances of 10 U.S. scientists. Now there's 11. Trump spoke today about the 11th. Our scientists are being murdered. They're being killed, and they're high-tech scientists for things of war. So that's a big deal, all right? Peter Schweitzer writes really good books. I've read almost every one of them. Eric Swalwell's sudden political death, a strategic hit job. Who didn't see that coming?
Yeah, really.
Right? We all knew the Democrats did that. Now we'll try to blame the Republicans. Then we have a plethora of stories here. Hey, guess who's back? Brian Williams. So there I was on the moon when I was ordering a bag full of fries. Yeah. All right. So, and then we got some videos. Some of them are funny. Some are just cool. All right. Let me see who else. Let's see. Somehow the unions here managed to blow up one of our two. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. Let me see. Jimmy from Philly. We're chatting the other day. Oh, yeah. It was cool. That was cool seeing the workshop. I've seen it before, of course, but I think Jimmy saw it for the first time. It was pretty cool. All right, let's see. What do we got here? All right, let's go to the first one. Washington Examiner through MSN. Trump and Iran announced Strait of Hormuz completely open for the rest of the Israeli-Lebanon ceasefire, and they just reached an agreement, Israel and Lebanon. Iran, the agreement is if Lebanon attacks them again, Israel will fire back. So, that's how it always is. So Iran's foreign minister, Saeed Abbas Araghchi, sounds like a really expensive purse, announced on Friday that the country would begin allowing commercial vessels to transit the waterways off their coast for the rest of the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire. So as long as it's on. All right. The announcement, if followed through upon, could be a breakthrough for the economic downturn that has taken place since Iran effectively closed oil and gas shipping through the air. So in other words, what's happening is oil prices have plummeted once again, and the market's going to go up. Araghchi, is that Araghchi? I'm just going to say Araghchi said the strait would be completely open for the remaining of the period of the ceasefire. All right. So, quote, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by ports and maritime organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. That's because they put mines all over the place. And so I guess they gave up the route that they could come in. So the Navy will help them go through. He announced on Thursday that the U.S. has brokered a 10-day ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon. The president now, Iran has never held to any kind of agreement, ceasefire or not. They've always broken it. But maybe Lebanon will. Maybe they will. The president said in a follow-up, the U.S. blockade of, the reason why this is going on is because Iran probably told them to make it go on. Lebanon, that's where all the Hezbollah hang out, right? And so Iran, actually Hezbollah is not just a proxy of Iran. They are actually part of the government because the head of Iran, or the head of Hezbollah, when he was murdered, the next one got crowned inside Tehran. All right. So he's part of the government. All right. So what's happening is we stopped every ship that came with Iranian oil that came from Iran or that paid the toll to get through. We stopped them. But anybody else, you can come through. So, and we did that because we were trying to harm Iran's money because they're dirt poor now. They've run out of money. And so Trump was using that as leverage, right? So let's see. On Tuesday, an Iranian-flagged cargo vessel tried to evade the U.S. blockade after leaving Bandar Abbas, but a U.S.-guided missile destroyer successfully redirected the vessel. Yeah, we don't want you going that way anymore. And here's to prove it. U.S. forces have not yet boarded a vessel that was not listening to their commands because they don't want to, pull that kind of crap. Right? Right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's dared to test them.
Oh, I know. I know. It's like I love the lib nuts where they're like, they're winning the war. No, they've already lost. Iran's already lost. All right, here we go. Zero hedge, which I like. Iran bats down baseless Trump claim on handing over enriched uranium to U.S. as he declares Hormuz never again closed. There we go. So Trump praises Iran for fully reopening Hormuz choke point. Crude tanks, yields dump, equity futs up, follows by claiming Iran never again close it. FARS soon after contradicts in fresh threat. All right, so let's go. Iranian source in conversation with Trump's claim about the delivery of Iran's enriched uranium is baseless per the report. This is what happens. Iran go, we didn't do it. We never spoke to them. No, you spoke to third parties that spoke to each other. Yeah, but we didn't speak to them. That's what they do. Iranian source in conversation with Al-Jadid Only civilian ships can pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and that too through routes specified by Iran. The announcement of a temporary, that's what they're saying, it's not true. The announcement of the temporary opening of the Strait of Hormuz has nothing to do with the current negotiations with Washington. This is all from them, per the report. We waited a few hours to make sure that a ceasefire had been established in Lebanon. Then we temporarily opened the Strait of Hormuz. The announcement of the temporary opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the ceasefire in Lebanon are part of the agreement. Negotiations on the issues of dispute with the United States are still ongoing, but due to Washington's excessive demands, there was no clear perspective. They're going to cave eventually. They have to. They've got no cards, as we like to say.
I mean, right there, they said only civilian ships. You've got the freaking 7th Fleet or whoever it is over there.
Oh, just about. Well, we had the what was it? The USS. It was the Gerald Ford.
Yep.
What was the other one? The Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
We had two of the top carriers that we have.
And then we sent over some minesweepers and destroyers.
Right. I know there's a lot of those, but crazy, huh? But they gotta lie. They gotta lie every time they speak.
Maybe they're Democrats.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure. Judiciary chair confirms that the House is moving to expunge the Ukraine impeachment. A successful expungement resolution would substantiate Trump's claims that the impeachments were illegitimate hoaxes driven by political malice. This is all because they have evidence of it now. So Representative Jim Jordan, Republican Ohio, he's chairman of the House Committee on the Judiciary, has disclosed to Just the News, John Solomon's piece, I think, Solomon didn't write this, that the House of Representatives, where Donald Trump was impeached during his first term over a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, is moving to expunge that impeachment from the congressional record. Quote, you need a majority vote. That's all you need. We need a bill. And it's actually something we're looking at. On Monday, Just the News was first to report on declassified secret memos from the 2019 Ukraine whistleblower scandal, which revealed that the CIA analyst accuser, Eric Charmella, right, admitted having he was like a third, like they say that you could have secondhand knowledge. Like if somebody was on the call and they told you what happened, that was acceptable. Okay, if the IG believed it. But right before Trump gets sworn in, what does Nancy Pelosi do and Schumer? They pass a bill that says it was the rules. I'm sorry. They didn't even have to pass a bill. They passed the rules of the House for the parliamentarian to approve that you could have 3 now. So to be the person that was on the phone tells one person and the other, it's like, whisper in my ear down 70 people. You got a completely different story. That's what they did.
Game of telephone.
Yeah, game of telephone. Thank you. That's probably what they say. So yeah, which revealed that the CIA analyst accuser, Eric Charmella, admitted having no direct knowledge of Trump's private comments or communications with Zelensky. Now, isn't that weird? They spelled it correctly here with 2 Y's. I'm sorry. And then here incorrectly. Somebody's got to whack his pee-pee. All right. So no direct knowledge of Trump's private comments or communications with Zelensky, basing the complaint entirely on hearsay and second or third hand accounts. That would never be accepted in a court of law, ever. It's called hearsay at that point. It's called hearsay if the person is not there in court that heard it, right, firsthand. The latest disclosures also document Charmella's potential political bias, including his status as a registered Democrat who worked closely with Vice President Joe Biden on Ukraine policy, including traveling with him. I hate these pop-ups. Traveling with him and discussing the dismissal of Ukrainian prosecutor Yuri Lutsenko. I thought it was Victor Chenko or whatever his name is, who was probing Burisma. That was Burisma Holdings Inc. That was the Hunter Biden, $85,000 a month in salary. The corporation that paid Biden's son millions, right? The memos, it says hiding facts from Congress and the public. That's bad. The memos also reveal Charmella's dislike for Republicans like former Representative Devin Nunes and Kash Patel and his prior procedural contact, Adam Schifferbrain's staff, which he initially omitted from the official disclosure form before apologizing. Okay. A supporting witness to an NSC official and co-author of the controversial 2016 intelligence community assessment on Russian election interference that never happened, linked to Peter Strzok, backed the complaint. This despite admitting he lacked granular insight, would not have acted on it himself, and was motivated by a moral and patriotic duty to help Carmela sleep at night. Are you shitting me? The concealed evidence of bias and hearsay was kept classified during Trump's House impeachment in December 2019 and the subsequent Senate trial. So in other words, they didn't want anybody to be able to see it or be able to use it, right? On Monday, Howard Law professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz, who does not like Trump, but defended him during his impeachment, reacted to the idea of expungement and said, I don't see any reason why it couldn't be done. Impeachment is a quasi-judicial procedure, whether you have to go back to Congress and ask them to expunge it or go to the courts. All right. So they violated the Constitution. All right. Dershowitz, the constitutional law expert, continued, but I have to tell you one thing. History will expunge it already, because what you've done is you've created so much doubt about the credibility of the main accuser that it's hard for anybody to sit back and say that was a just impeachment. They violated the Constitution. So in other words, we're going to get the people that were in on that, which I think we should. I think we always should, don't you? Hey, Bash.
Listen.
What's going on, man?
I'm here tapping my fingers. Can you hear
Yeah, I
it?
hear it. Very loud.
I'm here tapping my fingers, waiting to see any of these individuals in orange jumpsuits.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I thought you were testing your mic, believe it or not, because the whole time I was reading, I heard all this noise. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
I just did it just then. I wasn't doing it while you were reading.
Were you moving stuff around? Because I heard all kinds of noise. I was doing this to me. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's see. What's next? Sotomayor, the woman that just keeps on giving. Let's bring this up. Sotomayor, the dingbat. Well, you know what, though? You know what? She was the dingbat of the court, but I think Jackson is giving her a run for the money.
Yeah, I mean, it's
She
a
says some
parallel.
really stupid things.
It's a parallel to what gosh, it's a parallel to why Jimmy Carter was very happy to see Joe Biden elected.
Oh yeah,
Because
exactly.
he's no longer the worst
Let me say
US
this.
president in history.
Let me say Brown Jackson, Justice. She's not a stupid woman. Okay, she's smart. Sotomayor, from what I'm getting, is the nicest woman you ever want to meet, and she's very nice to her people. She loves the people love her, right? But she's a freaking dingbat. Let's be honest, she's a dingbat. She shouldn't be on the court. Jackson is not a dingbat. She's just very ideological. She will never even, and Sotomayor, the two of them will never even consider the Constitution. It's basically how I feel about the case. The Constitution doesn't come into play, at least with Kagan. All right, at least with her, Elena Kagan, Justice. She actually considers it. She goes with the left all the time, but in her arguments, she actually does consider it, because she was
the other two. It's not the Constitution. It's how I feel about the Constitution.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what I said. Yeah, it's how they feel about it. She was this. Kagan was the Solicitor General prior to this. Solicitor General, if nobody knows, that is the lawyer for the White House, for the federal government. Okay, it's the lawyer. So that if something comes up, they have to argue it in court. And I think she's a little unscrupulous, even though I like her somewhat, because she does consider the Constitution. When Obamacare came before the court, she should have recused herself, and she didn't. And she should have recused herself because she was Solicitor General when that piece of garbage was passed. And so she wrote up the defense for the government, for the Obama White House, if that legislation was ever taken to court. So she should have recused herself. She didn't. And naturally, she voted.
She's just another partisan hack.
Yeah, exactly. So Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is widely known as a liberal jurist who can reliably be expected to vote with her leftist colleagues, Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, on virtually every issue, as the three mostly march in lockstep. Ketanji Brown Jackson, in particular, seems to decide cases based on her own personal opinion. There you go. Not relying too much on that pesky old Constitution. But now Sotomayor can add a new adjective to her profile: obnoxious. The Obama-appointed jurist took the unusual step of making a personal attack on a fellow justice, Brett Kavanaugh, at an appearance at the University of Kansas School of Law on April 7th. She was talking about a decision the court made regarding immigration, and she didn't like Kavanaugh's concurring opinion in the 6-3 ruling. Of course she didn't. She didn't like anybody's on the other side. Sotomayor did not refer to Kavanaugh by name, but she suggested that the author of the concurring opinion, which was Kavanaugh, did not understand the actual. Now, get this, ready? Did not understand the actual impact of such stops. In particular, she appeared to imply that Kavanaugh had led a sheltered or privileged life, telling the audience that the opinion had come from, quote, a man whose parents were professionals and probably doesn't really know any person who works by the hour. Okay. Holy mackerel.
Okay, wait, right there. Because where does it say, I want you to show me this piece of paper that says the Supreme Court needs to judge cases on what might happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well, like I just said, or you kind of said too, they don't care about the Constitution. They care about how they feel about the Constitution.
Right. And her take right here is to say that someone who came from a family of means couldn't possibly rule on this case, because instead of saying the Constitution is what we should look at and throw the emotional part out, she goes the other way. Well, let me read it. That's just plain rude, not to mention discriminatory towards a person based simply on their background. Doesn't sound very woke to me, the person wrote. Meanwhile, the point she attempted to make is ludicrous. Just because someone's parents worked for a living doesn't mean they've never met an hourly worker or even took on a starter job themselves at some point. She went on to add this high-minded vision of herself and her superior ability to understand regular. Are you kidding me? It was obviously another shot at Kavanaugh. Quote, life experiences teach you to think more broadly and to see things others may not. And when I have a moment where I can express that on behalf of people who have no other voice, I'm being given a very rare privilege. Yeah, but you don't have the right to trash a member of the highest court in the land, you dumb bimbo.
Yeah, and besides that, so what she's basically saying here is she hallucinates into existence support for her arguments.
Exactly. It's crazy. Yeah, she may have grown up in the Bronx, but she also attended Princeton University, following that up by graduating from Yale Law School. Soon, she'll probably start calling herself Sonia from the streets. Exactly. Yeah. Supreme Court. I have an itch that won't go away. Sorry, guys. Supreme Court justices, the classy ones anyway, don't usually let their personal conflicts with each other play out in public. They're supposed to be more sophisticated and above it all than that. On Wednesday, the bitter justice apologized to Kavanaugh. What is not known, however, is whether Justice Roberts demanded that she do it. In any case, it was time to eat some crow. She said, at a recent appearance at the University of Kansas Law School, I referred to a disagreement with one of my colleagues in a prior case, but I made remarks that were inappropriate, she said in the statement issued to the court. I regret my hurtful comments. I have apologized to my colleague. Now, how much you want to bet half the reason she did that is because the Chief Justice can say you can no longer do speaking agreements, like arrangements. You can't speak anywhere anymore because they get paid money to do that, right?
The Chief Justice can say that?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. He's the chief. He's not the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He's the Chief Justice of the United States.
Yeah, he's the Chief Justice of all justices.
Of all judges.
Yeah.
Yes. Of all judges. Yes. And he can tell them what to do and what not to do. And guess who can tell him what to do and not to do? A lot of people don't know this. The Congress. The Congress.
Well, yeah, Congress.
No, because in what is it? Article 3. Okay. There is a part that says, and that what they have the power to do, and it says, and to argue cases, yada yada yada, and which are approved by the Congress. Now, that's not the actual words. I'm just paraphrasing. And this is important because this was used not too long ago. Okay, you remember when who was the girl? I forget her name now. Damn it! She was the girl that in Florida, the judge went by her husband, the guy to treat her like shit and probably put her in a coma, and they said that he made her a Terry Schiavo. I think it was Terry Schiavo.
Oh, Terry Schiavo, yeah.
Yeah, Terry Schiavo. Yeah. So what happened was, the Republicans in the House, they tried to take the case to a federal judge because it was a state case. And the judge said, I don't have jurisdiction for that, right? And he was right. So what they did was the Republicans in the House passed a bill giving jurisdiction to the federal government for a case like that, where the husband wants her to be taken off life support, right? Even and saying that she had the persistent brain damage, even though there were witnesses that came forward to this Judge Green down in and he was part of the what was it, the Socrates it was the Hemlock Society, right? Like kill people that are worthless, right? And what's called it turns out that this judge really didn't want her to live, and didn't even take into consideration the testimony of the nurses and doctors that worked on Terry, because they said we would wheel her out to the nurses station and we would be telling jokes and she would laugh along with us. And she said, and the one girl said, I asked her specifically, do you want to die? And she shook her head and said, no. Right now they're saying she's brain dead, right? But you can't be brain dead and answer a specific question like that.
Yeah,
right?
if that's true, she wasn't brain dead. That's not the review I heard of the case, but that's neither here.
Well, I did a story on it back then, and the reason why I was so involved in it is Terry Schiavo was like friends with my ex-wife, who I was married to at the time. All right, she was from Pennsylvania. All right, and I think the husband was too. All right, and so that's why I was so into the case, because I couldn't believe what was going on. So anyway, so they passed this, then the Senate passed it, and George W. Bush signed it. Okay, they literally took the signed law to the judge, and the judge looks it up, and he goes, "You don't have the power to do that." And they're like, "Judge, read the Constitution for God's sake," and he dismissed the case anyway. And so she died. They let her die, and the parents were saying, not to digress too much longer, but the parents were like pleading with the court, look, we'll take care of her. We don't even want anything from him. But the judge said, no. And they're like, wait a minute, she was our daughter for like 20 years before she met him. Doesn't matter. The law is the law. It was unbelievable. Anyway, so yeah. So what I was going to say is she probably doesn't want to get that kind of censure because every time she gives a speech, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but one of the demands she makes is that the organization that's going to pay her, they also have to buy a number of her children's books. Yeah, seriously.
I've heard that.
Oh, yeah. They have to buy a number of the children's books that she's written.
And it's not a small number. It's like 100 of them or something.
I heard she doesn't even understand the children's books that she's written, but she gets money. No, I'm kidding. So there you go. So she made I would call it a classist a classist complaint.
Yeah, but the whole thing, you got to step above that. Where does class come in? Where does race come in? Interpreting following the Constitution. You can't come in and say, well, he doesn't understand how the people feel about it. Well, that doesn't matter. That's still the Constitution.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. So
how you feel about it. Well,
hey, what's up, Charlie? How you doing? Good to see you. All right, let's go to the next one. It's going to be good. So, Last Refuge, ragtag bunch of conservative misfits. I love that tagline, man. There you go. DNI Tulsi Gabbard outlines the reason for criminal referral of the Trump impeachment collaborators. They're going after him. DNI Tulsi Gabbard appears for an interview with Katie Pavlich to outline the importance of bringing all the information about the intelligence community targeting the President Trump to the public. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and we, the people, want to see accountability for the Machiavellian conduct. The intelligence community targeted President Trump, and people within the CIA ran an operation to remove him. Holy crap. I mean, I still get goosebumps when I say that. Because, guys, they say, well, he's a dictator. Yeah, well, who the fuck do you think these people are when they weaponized our government against him? For what reason? Because he won. These people have names and titles that have remained hidden. DNI Tulsi Gabbard is putting those names, specific names, into the public psyche so that we can have a full understanding of what took place. Let's hear it out.
Back in 2019, President Trump had a phone call with
Not gonna
Ukrainian
listen to the
President
whole thing.
Volodymyr Zelensky. Concerned about corruption, President Trump mentioned Hunter Biden. Democrats saw this as an opportunity to go after Trump and impeach the first-term president for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Thanks to the efforts of the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, we know a lot more about how that impeachment came together. Director Gabbard, thank you so much for being here. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Katie. Thanks.
So, of course, there is an ongoing war and ceasefire with Iran. President Trump this morning talked about potentially the war being over soon. We had the CIA director last week giving a briefing to reporters at the White House. Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane has talked about this extensively alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was also at the White House today talking about this issue. That is a threat to the United States, and it is being handled. Information is coming out every single day from CENTCOM about the updates on what is happening. But another threat to our constitutional republic is when the intelligence community is weaponized for political purposes.
Yeah.
You released new documentation this week showing what happened in the lead up to the impeachment of President Donald Trump in 2019. Can you tell us what you found and why now to release and declassify this information to the public?
Very good.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. You know, first and foremost, it is always the right time to expose the truth to the American people about the deep state tactics that have been used time and time again, fundamentally to undermine the foundational principles of our republic, and in so many cases to undermine the decisions that the American people make when they cast their votes in our elections to decide who they want to lead our country. And so the documents that we released really pointed to the fact that the 2019 impeachment occurred because there were members of the intelligence community working directly with House Democrats, specifically Adam Schiff, who's on the House Intelligence Committee at the time, concocting this narrative, weaponizing the whistleblower process, lying and abusing their power, all to create this manufactured basis that Nancy Pelosi then used to drive this impeachment against Donald Trump in 2019. I'll hit the high points on these documents. There are details and hundreds of pages of transcripts that we released in conjunction with House Intel Chairman Rick Crawford. But the bottom line is this. Number one, the whistleblower, so-called whistleblower who came forward, presented no evidence and no firsthand knowledge.
None.
This is a person who had heard about a conversation that President Trump had with Zelensky, then went straight to Adam Schiff on the House Intelligence Committee. And this is where
See, you're supposed to go to the IG. You're not supposed to go to Congress.
They came up with this false narrative, and this so-called whistleblower then went and filed a complaint with the intelligence community inspector general.
After talking
the
to Schiffer
other
brains.
so-called witness to this is somebody who also had zero firsthand knowledge and presented zero evidence, someone who was also a co-author of the 2017 Russia hoax intelligence community assessment that President Obama had ordered be created in conjunction with John Brennan and James Clapper at the time. Again, no firsthand knowledge or evidence, and someone who said that even after reading the transcript, he didn't really see the issue there until the whistleblower had explained it to him. And lastly, the inspector general himself. And this is really such a violation of public trust and the responsibility that we expect all of our inspectors generals to have, in that he didn't conduct a full investigation.
Nope.
He didn't even ask to see
And he lied to Congress
the
about it.
transcript of the phone call between President Trump and Zelensky. And he admitted to Congress that he did not have any evidence that he was relying on. He had made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice based on this so-called whistleblower's complaint. Department of Justice came back and said, there's nothing here. This inspector general then went to Congress anyway and presented to them.
This is important, guys, because we have an election at the end of this year, and the same SOBs could remain in Congress. And if they get away with this, that means that new SOBs that get elected to Congress are going to feel they can do the same thing if they get in charge again. That's why this is important. I'm not going to bore you with the rest. She's basically they're bringing out every single thing. She found the stuff, and it was in a locked room. They threw away the key. They thought, oh, nobody's going to find this. And so they went in, they found it. She declassified it. and it's like a humdinger. I heard some people that were involved. I heard them on, I think it was Wilkow this week, Andrew Wilkow on Sirius XM Patriot Channel. And there's a lot of stuff. Like, it's like every single thing they did. Unreal.
Yeah, it's like, do you remember that story? The lady came forward, I'm forgetting her name right now, and talked about how Trump tried to take over the limousine on January 6th.
Yeah. The Beast.
And he tried to take over the Beast, and he was wrestling with these
Secret Service,
and he, reached and grabbed the steering wheel, and it's like, well, first of all, lady, have you ever seen the Beast?
Yeah,
because
they weren't in the Beast.
No, they weren't in
the Beast
SUV. They were in some SUV. So have you ever seen that limo SUV?
Yeah.
And you're trying to reach from the back seat to, while at the same time a 70-something-year-old man is wrestling with a couple of Secret Service.
Let's stick to the Beast, because they lied and said that they were in the Beast. So you were right to say that. I was just pointing out that they weren't. Okay. They lied.
But you know what? With this, I am so tired of hearing this, because I want you to come to me when you've got indictments.
Right.
And when you've got convictions. I'm getting so tired of hearing, yes, we're investigating this. We're going to do this. This is going to happen.
Well, there's a lot of things that have happened. They just didn't make big news because they weren't big people. That's why that's one of the bigger reasons why Pam Bondi had to go. She got a lot of convictions, like on the fraud around the country, a lot of convictions, right? And people are going to jail, but she didn't get a single conviction on any of the big people. And we're sitting back going, whoa, wait, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Everybody that knows this channel, I did. All right. But now I'm thinking, wait a minute. She didn't do jack on those big names. She even screwed up the one on James Comey and Tish Big Letitia, right? Where she put, what's her name? Harrigan. She reassigned her for another 120 days. The law says no, after the first 120, it's up to the judge. And she reassigned her, so she was illegally put. What the hell was she thinking?
Well, you don't know what she was thinking, but yeah. Talk to me when they're in jumpsuits, okay?
Yeah. So now we're going to do the story.
Yeah, it's
Mark Carney. Mark Carney.
It's like a spider web. The flies get caught, the wasps go free.
Right. So Mark Carney, Canadian Prime Minister, he takes a swipe at Trump with whiskey joke and defiant speech. Okay, that's fine. So here we go. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has highlighted that U.S. exports continue to feel the effects of the country's ongoing boycott of American goods. Actually, we don't give a shit. The backlash linked to President Donald Trump's trade measures because he doesn't want them robbing us anymore. All right? And they're acting like they're victims, Jade. They're like, oh, President Trump wants to do this bullshit. No, what you were doing was bullshit.
Yeah, what about
it was an imbalance of trade,
What about the...
Who is it?
What about the 200? What about? Sorry about that. What about the 250% tariff that Canada was charging on our milk products?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So here we go. So linked to President Trump's trade measures and rhetorical attacks against the nation in the U.S. leader's second term. Speaking at the Liberal Party convention on Saturday, Carney cited Trump's tariffs and growing doubts about Canada's relationship with Washington while celebrating small individual acts of solidarity. Okay, this is okay. Exhibited by Canadians, including those who forego American holidays in favor of domestic trips and abstain from purchasing U.S. alcohol products. All right, quote. He said, anyone had any bourbon recently? And everybody laughed. I heard it, right? I watched the speech. He said to applause and laughter from the Montreal crowd, right? Before adding that Canadians are rediscovering our country. All right. Relations between this is why it matters. Relations between the two historically friendly powers have frayed since the return of Trump to the White House last year, primarily due to high tariffs levied on Canadian imports, as well as his repeated references to the country as the U.S. 51st state. He's busting their balls, right? But the fact of the matter is it's because of the tariffs. Now everybody knows he increased the tariffs to get them to lower theirs so that he lowers his and we lower all the way to zero tariffs. That's Trump's goal, okay? This led to widespread boycotts of American. Let me ask every American here, did you know there were widespread boycotts? I never heard of it.
No, even better question. Did you care?
No, not at all. Products within Canada to which Carney made reference, one that industry groups warn has significantly impacted sales in one of their most critical markets. Okay. Early last year, several Canadian provinces removed American alcohol from their shelves in response to new tariffs on the country's products. That's a result of tariffs. That's fine. You know, that's capitalism. Measures tied to the wider Buy Canadian movement that U.S. trade officials have said greatly hamper its alcohol exports. Okay. According to a recent report from Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, a trade association representing American producers and sellers, this had an outsized impact on total of 2025 export figures, with exports of Canada dropping 70% compared with 2024 levels. Okay. During his speech,
do Canadians drink that much that it's that much of a devastating effect on the alcohol?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, if you're living with commies, I mean, our friend here, Commander, calls it China duff for a reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in under a communist regime, why wouldn't you drink?
Exactly. The Prime Minister unveiled plans to prioritize Canadian suppliers, further diversify exports away from the U.S. and pursue a more independent economic and foreign policy. Quote, with our new Buy Canadian policy, when the federal government spends, we will select Canadian suppliers by default. Guess what? You should. It's called Canada First. You should. All right. The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollar to the United States are over. Their military drinks a shitload. All right. We're going to build Canada strong and Canada steel with Canada Steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian lumber, Canadian workers. He continued later stating that the country was on track to double its non-U.S. exports to $300 billion over the next decade. What people are saying. So he said, at this decisive moment, Canadians are demonstrating just how strong we are. You know, it started quietly. People choosing a wine from the Okanagan over from California.
Okanagan.
Thank you. A family, thank you, fellow or former Canadian, now U.S. patriot. A family planning a vacation to Prince Edward Island instead of booking flights to Florida. Everybody's laughing while he's saying this. Small individual acts of solidarity, but repeated millions of times. And together they make a statement. We are the masters of our destiny. Okay, prick. You're the master of Canadian destiny. Do you know that Carney's wife lives in the United States? His 4 children live in the United States. He owns the house in the United States. So when people hear that, they're like, hey, it's just a politician, right? I mean, that's bullshit. His family lives down here. And yet he's standing there, oh, Canada first. Really? Bring your wife and kids home, you douche.
Scumbag politician. But I repeat myself.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Gina? Good to see you. Let's see. 1, 2. Let's see. What else? What's the next one? Oh, yeah. This is good. About Tampon Tim. Here we go. So this is Life Zet. I believe Laura Ingraham owns this still. Okay. Lifelong Democrat spills the beans on what she went through trying to stop Tim Walz's his era of fraud. Okay. So a longtime state employee identified as Faye Bernstein testified. Why did I say maybe that's not her real name? Testified before lawmakers detailing her experience as a whistleblower and alleging retaliation. Aren't the Democrats, remember with Eric Charmella during the first impeachment? We have to protect the whistleblower's name. You're not allowed to say his name legally. Actually, the law says that the only person that's not allowed to say a whistleblower's name is the inspector on the federal level, is the inspector general that took the complaint. Anybody else in the world can say it, but people got thrown off this platform and others just for saying his name, Eric Charmella. Okay. So she got people that retaliated against her. Bernstein described herself as a lifelong Democrat. That doesn't matter to them. And a career public employee with 2 decades of service. I call it, it's they're progressives and whatnot, right? But it's the woke supremacy is what it is. They have a supremacy about them. Okay. And the supremacy is you could be a member of the left-wing progressive supremacy for decades. Okay. In good standing, you know, and ask the woman who wrote the Harry Potter series. You make one statement that they don't like and you're out. There's no degrees about you're fucking out. They're going to cancel your ass, right?
Well,
That's the problem with these people.
Cenk Uygur said it. Cenk Uygur, he sat there at his table and he said, you know, I'm the owner of the biggest left-wing like podcast or whatever he called it, platform, I think he called it.
Yeah.
And I have to say this, he says, the Democrats, if you're with them and then you fall off 1%, that's it, you're out.
I know, that's what it is.
Republicans, if you're with them 5%, they say, oh, come on in, we'll see if we can't get you back, for more.
And the difference is, the exception is, when a Democrat politician does something wrong, illegal, they circle the freaking wagons. Republicans that go, get it out. They make them get out. Santos, anyone? Right? Now, they just told Swalwell to get out, and they're making it look like, it's just affecting women. They don't give a shit about women being assaulted sexually. They don't care. But if they cared, then why are they using our tax dollars for a sexual assault slush fund?
Yeah, they don't care that he did it. They care that he got caught.
Yes. And the fact of the matter is, I'm going to say it now. Jade and I were talking about it before the show. I personally believe that the reason why they got rid of him now is because the primary was this week. And if he won, he was going to win the primary. Sorry. People in California, other than Bobby, of course, are just fucking stupid, right? You can't call it oppression if you keep voting for it, and they keep voting for it, right? So he was going to win, which means you win the primary, you're the governor. Let's be honest, right? So if he won that primary and the story came out after that, we'd have a Republican governor for sure. So they wanted him out now.
So they were just hedging their bets. Yeah,
he did what all Democrats do. He did that little ridiculous film that he did, right? The video, and said, I was a prosecutor for 20 years. No, not for 20. I was a prosecutor for 20 years where I defended people that were, especially women, of sexual assault. Oh, really? Did you charge yourself, you jackass? They're saying there's going to be a lot more women coming out.
Yeah, and
he was a real womanizer.
The interesting thing about that, he says,
it's all because of power.
About that film that you're talking about, I believe that's the one that he says, well, I didn't do it,
right? But
I'm sorry, and I'm going to take responsibility for all my actions. Yeah. Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, he basically said, the way he said it was, it sounded like, I've done some terrible things. I mean, just ask my wife. Holy Christ. It's the dumbest thing that he could have said.
But he's saying on the
I'm going to fight this to the end. Right, the end happened 48 hours later.
Yeah, he said, on the one hand, he said, no, I didn't do it. Then the next words out of his mouth were saying, I'm taking responsibility for what I did. Does that, is there a disconnect? Or is
there is. There's a real disconnect, but only the libnuts wouldn't get that. All right. Bernstein described herself as a lifelong Democrat and a career public employee with 2 decades of service. Let's just get down. There's got to be there it is. Is that the video? I think it is. Hold on. I want to stop it. Let's bring it up. Here we go.
About it, Jesse, because he had become a liability. And you pointed out she knew all about this. She was briefed by the FBI back in 2020 that the guy was a target of a Chinese spy, Fang Fang. And by the way, Fang Fang probably got a Medal of Commendation. That's like the worst espionage assignment in the history of the world.
Sleep with him.
Well, fell for it. She knew that he was a liability. She knew he was a problem. She could use it as leverage until it blew up in her face, and now he's gone. And Jesse, this is why Congress needs to pass legislation. I'm introducing it today.
Crazy. He was on the Intelligence Committee. When they found out about Fang Fang, they went to Pelosi and said, get him off the committee. She's like, no, we're not going to. They circle the wagons.
Yep. And in the meantime, it's bang, bang, fang, fang.
Yeah.
To every member of Congress who's convicted of a sex offense. Right now, you could be convicted and still get your pension. The only thing the government ought to be paying for people like Eric Swalwell is a jail cell.
Yeah, that's got to be a voice vote. That's got to be unanimous. Exactly. Senator, let's say AOC. We assume Nancy or Hakeem Jeffries has something on AOC. What do you think that is? And do you think they use it?
Oh, I think they absolutely use it if they've got it. And I think the way that you get it is you just monitor these people just like they did with Swalwell, and you use it for leverage. I mean, there's a reason that they stay in line, again, until they become liabilities. And you're right about Joe Biden. Who got Joe Biden out of the presidential race? Not Joe Biden. It was Nancy Pelosi once again.
She did.
I mean, she is a power player. She has got more dirt on every member of her party than anybody else, any intelligence agency could ever hope to. And for my money, I say she's still in control over that.
Yep, she is.
You think she's still a big dog?
Yeah, because not as big. Like, think about this. You think she listens to Jeffries? Do you think any of them listen to Jeffries?
She probably tells Jeffries what to say.
Probably, yeah, because he's an idiot. I'm sorry. And you know who his father was? His father was another one of those bow tie mobbers. He was like a Farrakhan. I call him Farrakhan. He's a racist preacher, and he's not too far off. But he's in Congress, so he has to wear the shirt and the tie and speak, without all the anti-white stuff. But
Hakeem Jeffries, we call him Timu Obama.
Yeah, no, I'd call him the Walmart or Obama.
Or Walmart. Same thing.
Same thing. You're right. All right, here we go. So after that one, Trump, he torches Swalwell. There we go. Swalwell. He's a sleazebag, always has been. Is there a video? We can get right to it. No. All right, that's fine. This is on Hannity. So President Trump blasted disgraced former Representative Eric Swalwell as allegations of sexual misconduct continue to mount, dismissing the embattled ex-lawmaker as a bad guy while declining to weigh in on the specifics of the claims. Yeah, why is he going to? He's a sleazebag, always has been, Trump told the Daily Mail. He's a long-timer, and he's a bad guy. I don't know anything about the charges, but he's a bad guy. The president's remarks come as multiple women, like the day that Gloria Allred's daughter took this woman's case, right? Oh, talk about a pit bull, right? The day that she took the case and she did the press conference for it. Did you see that, Jade?
I don't think I did.
She started, like, Swalwell wasn't there, but she was demeaning him. Like Mr. Swalwell, didn't call him Congressman. Mr. Swalwell, you don't speak to women that way. You don't roofie them. Because then she said, after we announced, because a reporter asked the question, she said, yes. Have any other women come to you? She said, yes. As a matter of fact, minutes after we announced publicly that we're doing this press conference, we had 3 women call us. That's 4 right there. I'm sure there's like a half dozen others that came forward. And guess what the common thing they're all saying about it is? That
he's a sleazebag?
That they drank, that they drank with him. They said, I only had 1 drink. I got so drunk. I can't believe they were roofied.
Sure,
and always, well, let's go to my room for a minute. I got to get something out of there, and then we can go down and have dinner or something like that. They never get out of the room. Right. But this girl, she was real tired and all. She didn't pass out. As a matter of fact, she kept saying, get off me, stop. And he goes, oh, shut up. It'll be over in a minute. Well, that sounds about right. Right. But I mean, holy cow. So all these women are coming out now. We got another one where we're talking about Peter Schweitzer says he's looking at time. Right. The president's remarks come as multiple women are coming forward accusing Swalwell of sexual assault, rape, and other inappropriate conduct spanning several years. Asked directly about the accusations, Trump stopped short of addressing the details. Now, that's important if Trump stopped talking. I love him, but the man he loves to talk, right? So he's not stupid. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, he doesn't want to say anything that's going to compromise the case.
Right. So we'll see what happens, the president said. He's always been a bad guy. He's a corrupt politician, and everyone knows it. So it's happening to him, and we'll see what happens, right? Let him go defend himself. Here you go. The allegations have intensified in recent days, and another accuser publicly detailing claims that the married former congressman drugged, choked, and raped her during a 2018 encounter in a hotel room. Think about that, guys. 8 years. This guy's been doing this. Are you kidding me?
Initially, I wondered if it was a bit of a setup and maybe, just some regret.
But he is a bad guy. Yeah.
Some regret on the woman's part. But then, when you hear multiple women coming out like that, it's hard to ignore.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Because if there would have been just like one accusation,
I know.
You could say, oh, she's just, regret and she's making it up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that's the case.
All right, let's slow things down for a second. We have another Progressive Zen update.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to another Progressive Zen moment of the day, where you can practice your breathing to bring calm and peace to your life.
What is wrong with you? I can't do this anymore. I'm literally sick. I'm literally sick to my stomach. What has happened to America? What has happened to democracy? What has happened to freedom? I'm done. This is a message to anyone who follows me. If you voted for Trump, unfollow me and block me. If you didn't vote, unfollow me and block me. The fact that it's this close means I've lost all hope in the American people. Like, it should not be this close. Why would anyone vote for this person? He's so evil. He's so demented. Kamala's not perfect. We all know that. We all know that. She is not a convicted felon, rapist, crazy, fascist, dictator, psycho.
This has been Progressive Zen, enhancing peace around the world.
I love that the lib nuts are a forever source for videos like that. This is amazing. Did you hear what she said? What's happening to democracy? What's happening to freedom? How could people be voting for him? Isn't that what democracy and freedom's about? That getting to vote for the person you want to represent you?
Like, duh.
Yeah, they're friggin' idiots. But
yeah, like the Democrats come out, they're trying to restrict voting to save democracy.
It's unbelievable.
How do you? In what world did that just make sense?
Oh, I know. It's crazy. All right, so
and none of what she said at the end is true.
Yeah, here's a good one. This is good. Another Swalwell, and then I think we're done. All right. This is from Unreported Truths. It's Alex Berenson. I've read several of his novels. He's a good writer, actually. He used to report for the New York Times, and then he sold the light. He's the guy. I also bought, I think he had 3 books on COVID during COVID. He was the whistleblower, I guess. He's just a really good investigative journalist, and he gave all the bullshit away that what they're doing. All right. It is impossible to be too cynical about the Democratic legacy media access. Eric Swalwell has been, at best, an adulterer and sexual predator throughout his career in Congress. The Democratic Party didn't care until he became a problem in the California governor's race. Now, they probably asked him, we're going to find this out later. I'll bet any amount. They probably asked him to get out. And he's, fuck you, I'm going to be the governor. I'll tell you what to do, right? He didn't realize that they were going to take care of him.
You don't do that to the Democrats.
He's got to be sitting back, Jade. He's got to be sitting back thinking, oh my God, if only I listened and got out. Or, oh my God, like you know who listened but didn't get out also, but it worked out for her? It was, oh Christ, what was her name now? The girl in Arizona ran for governor. They warned her. A guy came, he was a Democrat, or no, he was a Republican. He was a rhino establishment type, and he knocked on her door. Her husband wasn't home, and he came in and he said, we'll give you lots of money if you get out of the race. And she was like, get out of my house, right? So, but with this guy, he didn't listen. Now he's probably going to prison. All right. Until last week, Eric Swalwell, who represents a deep blue district in Northern California, was a leading Democratic. He was the guy that was going to get it, candidate to become the state's next governor. Now Swalwell, whose chin and shoulders suggest heavy steroid use, extreme self-regard, or both, in what savvy political analysts call deep doo-doo. Heap big doo-doo, I would have said. Turns out Swalwell, who is married with children, has been putting his representative in places he shouldn't. On Friday, CNN and the San Francisco Chronicle ran investigations about his alleged misconduct. One former staffer claims he raped her. He raped a staffer that he had to work with every day. Other women claim he hit on them, sent them unsolicited pictures, and I don't mean family photos, or otherwise acted like Matt Gaetz during a sorority week. All right. Well, that was not a cool thing to do. Matt Gaetz never raped anyone. The Matt Gaetz reference is deliberate. Let's not pretend Democrats are the only ones guilty of this nonsense. Corey Mills and Tony Gonzalez would like a word as well. Congress these days appears to be split between drooling veterans of the War of 1812 and the real horn dogs of Capitol Hill. He's right about that. Coincidentally, it is not exactly fulfilling its Article 1 responsibilities to the max, the size. But I digress. Yes, it seems beyond doubt at this point, Swalwell is a serial adulterer and sexual predator who at one point allegedly had an improper relationship with a Chinese spy with the too good to be true name of Fang Fang. That's just awesome. Gotta love it. Let's see.
Yeah, the relationship with Fang Fang is not alleged.
Oh, I know. Well, you have to say alleged for legal reasons, right? Hey, everyone makes mistakes, he says. So what's fascinating, though, is that the Democratic Party's grandees and their allies, bootlickers is such an ugly word, in the legacy media, I always call them the bootlicking sycophants of the mainstream media, were apparently willing to overlook Eric's wandering eye until he became a political liability. Now, isn't that something? The press had to, they're the smartest people on earth, right? Well, they had to know that this prick was going around with his, doing this to women, and they said nothing because he had a D next to his name. But they make shit up about Trump, over in Russia having a hooker pee on him, right? I mean, come on. The women who have spoken out about Swalwell are either former staffers or other professional Democrats, like Ali Samarco, congressional. Washington is a small place, and Northern California's Democratic elite is even more provincial. The Fang Fang allegations have been rattling around for years. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the Fang Fang thing wasn't while he was a member of Congress. He was in the city council, maybe San Francisco. I forget where he was. He was a member of city council when the Fang Fang thing happened. But from what I understand, he still had correspondence with her when he got elected to Congress, but he wasn't fanging her fang at that point, if you know what I'm saying. Swalwell was far from discreet. He appears to have cast his net far and wide, even as his national reputation among Democrats grew thanks to his aggressive attacks on President Trump. The idea that top Democrats or political reporters did not know what Swalwell was doing is frankly ludicrous. It's true. So why have these allegations suddenly exploded now? I want to hear this explanation. Well, California has a very unusual primary for its gubernatorial race. On June 2, or before with early voting, all registered California voters can vote for governor in a single nonpartisan statewide primary called a jungle primary. I'm surprised they weren't sued for that. The top two candidates moved to the November general election. In theory, by allowing independent voters to cast ballots, a jungle primary can help produce more moderate candidates than separate party primaries would. But Swalwell is just one of 8 major California Democrats are running in the primary compared to only 2 Republicans, like you said, Jay. And although California is a heavy blue state, Democrats are increasingly worried that they may split the vote so badly that both Republicans will advance, putting the nation's largest state in Republican hands for the first time since the Terminator ran it. Forcing Swalwell out of the race would go a long way to solving this problem. Personally, I think they did it because they didn't want him having these charges come out when he won. Because would have absolutely gone to Republicans. So after years of ignoring his misdeeds, media outlets and top Democrats are suddenly highlighting them and calling for him to drop out of the California primary. Guys, this is exactly why the Democrats hate Trump so much. He was a Democrat in New York City. You had to be if you wanted to build buildings. All right. You had to be a Democrat in that Democrat town to do anything. So he meets with the Democrat politicians, right? He wines and dines and boozes and schmoozes. They tell him like he's their friend. They tell him all their dirty little secrets, right? How they screwed this community over to help this community, all that crap, right? And so then later on, years later, he runs for president as a Republican. So they felt that he totally turned his back on them, screwed them, stabbed them in the back, whatever you want to say, right? He was a traitor. And so they hate his ass. Well, what are they doing here? They all knew all the shit that he got involved in, Swalwell, and they never said a thing until it was. So all these other, you got to think about it. Maybe that's why these other Democrats, they don't go after anybody themselves because they got so many skeletons in their closet. I mean, think about it. I think there was somebody that wrote a book about most of the members of Congress in a specific year, and it wasn't too long ago, like 2020 or something, that they all had felonies. They all somehow got felonies. So that was remarkable. Notably, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, called in a post on X for Swalwell to quit the primary, but did not mention whether Swalwell should resign his House seat. Right, because he's a political whore and he wants to keep his numbers up. It is impossible to be too cynical. That's true. I mean, think about it. These people, they didn't do it, just, I mean, and I'm not saying the Republicans would do it to save themselves. I'm not saying that, right? But how about that, man? How about that? So let's see who's here. Let's go down the list. What do we got? Get a life. Who? Okay, let me see. Mucker. There we go. Or Lost Soul. Man, I'm missing all these conversations. Let me see. I'm going blogger and
I haven't been looking.
Really, I like it. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's see. Next one. Yeah, I want to do this story on the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers because they were screwed. Let me tell you something. I know for a fact because I did several stories on this that the Proud Boys, the Democrats, infiltrated the Proud Boys and they got a guy in there. Hey, what's up, Special K? Good to see you, man. Yeah, they hold on a sec. Yeah, so the Proud Boys, they had an infiltrator. He was an FBI informant who became a Proud Boy. They liked him. They brought him in, and they said, we want you to report what they're going to do and what they do on January 6th. So after January 6th, they bring him in. The FBI brings him in to talk to him and debrief him, all that. And he said that they spent like hours with him in that room trying to get him to lie, to change his story, because he told them, look, not only did the Proud Boys not have any idea to go in and cause problems or start a riot, they said, but the police, the Capitol Police, were giving them thumbs up because they went into the Capitol and grabbed people and pulled them out and said, it's illegal. Don't do that. Get out. Get out. You're going to get in trouble. Right. And so the FBI, they didn't care about this informant. They didn't care. They just said, you got to change your story. So then they got someone else to say that he was the informant. They got him to lie. And that's how he got 24 years, the head of the Proud Boys? Are you kidding me? And they never did anything. He said they had no contacts because he was with them for months. He said he had no contacts since the election with any groups that were saying they were going to go into to cause problems.
And once they decided that the Proud Boys were bad guys, they arrested the leader, and the leader wasn't even in Washington, D.C.
Right. He was in Maryland. He was in Maryland at the time. He wasn't even there.
Wasn't even there.
I know. The whole thing was a setup. So anyway, let's do this. So it's easy for a lot of misinformed people to be outraged when they see a headline announcing the cases against Proud Boys and Oath Keepers are being dismissed. Now, why is that? Because for years, people were fed politics and media coverage that pushed a single insurrection narrative and ignored the facts of each individual case. What's harder is slowing down, looking at the cases one by one, and asking what actually happened to the people caught up in the system. So get rid of that. But that's exactly what this moment requires, because if the federal government can take one chaotic day, flatten every person connected to it into one single caricature, and then use that sweeping narrative to sidestep due process, overcharge defendants, and crush families under the weight of endless punishment, then the problem is bigger than just January 6th. The problem is what happens when institutions stop treating Americans as individuals under the law and start treating them as one lump group to be made examples of. That's what the commies do, and that's what the Democrats did under Biden. Now, that's why these dismissals matter. The coverage of these dismissals is already being framed in the same exact one-size-fits-all turn, as if every conviction represented the same exact conduct, the same level of involvement, and the same facts. Here's a sidebar, just to say this. The New York frickin' Times recently came out with a story saying that the January 6th, the people that were in prison, that he pardoned all of them, right? Most of them, right? That they're on a crime spree now. They're on a crime spree, right? There were 12 of those people. There were over 1,000. I think it was 1,100 and something that were pardoned, and 12 got in trouble again. The one of them, he knocked over an ice sculpture at a Democrat event.
On purpose?
Yeah. Because people were like fucking with it. They knew who he was and they were giving him a hard time. And so he I think he just pushed it over because he got angry, right? But I mean, that thing cost like $15,000 to do. Yeah, the size that thing was.
Yeah, that's some money, but that ain't no high crime and misdemeanor.
I know, but he's on a crime spree. Now, I ran the numbers, okay? I looked up, all right, the American Almanac. You can get the numbers for past years for crimes and whatnot. You can even go to the Uniform Crime Index reports. The FBI lets you see them, right? They publish them. And so the average recidivism rate in the United States is 43%. 43%, almost half the people that go into prison, they go back in, okay? Out of this, 12 people out of all the people that crime spree, remember, out of all the people that were pardoned, 12 of them represented 0.1%.
I was just going to say, if my mental math works, that's 0.12%.
Yeah. So you got crime spree for 0.1%, and they don't even talk about 43% of criminals that come out of prison go back in, recidivism wise.
Yeah, but that's because they were subject to racist, systemic racism, and it's not their fault, really.
Right.
See?
It's never their fault. It's always Donald Trump's fault. Yeah. All right. So here we go. So this is from the AP, right? Piece of garbage. So they wrote, the Justice Department on Tuesday asked a federal appeals court to throw out the seditious conspiracy convictions of Proud Boys and Oath Keepers leaders who were sentenced to prison terms for leading members of the far-right extremist groups in attacking the U.S. Capitol. That's not what they did. They did nothing of the sort. To keep President Donald Trump in office over 5 years ago, Trump commuted the prison sentences of several Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Trump did not commute the sentence of anybody that actually rioted. And he said that in the beginning. He said, look, if you actually rioted and you hurt people, no, you deserve to be arrested and charged. He goes, I'm sorry, but you do. Now, I don't think a Democrat president would ever do that. All right. So he commuted the sentences of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers last January in a sweeping act of clemency for all 1,500. That's how many, plus defendants charged in the January 6, 2021 attack. And that's because the damn thing was so politicized that everybody knows it. Hold on a sec. I got something coming in. Okay, sorry, guys. All right, so the request by the Justice Department would go a step further and erase all convictions for extremist group leaders. They're not extremist groups. How are the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys extremist groups, including Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes, who didn't receive pardons last January? Okay. The move to abandon the convictions, representing a stunning reversal from the Biden administration, which hailed the guilty verdicts as a crucial victory in its bid to hold accountable those responsible for what prosecutors described as an attack on the heart of American democracy. You know what I think is a bigger attack on the heart of American democracy, Jade? Stealing a fucking election. That's what I think is a bigger attack on American democracy. Stealing an election, which is what they did. And then for the 2 months between election and January 6th, we were told, shut the fuck up. You weren't allowed to complain. You weren't allowed to show any evidence. Every single case that was taken to a judge with evidence. The judge said no standing, and people then go add insult to injury, and the libnuts say, "Oh, well, they had 62 cases thrown out." No, they didn't. They never had a case. No judge ever accepted a case. No standing because they didn't want to. They were all left-wing Democrat judges. It's part of the Trump administration's continued efforts to rewrite the history of the January 6th attack and downplay the violence carried out by the mob of Trump supporters that left more than 100 police officers injured. Well, when you fire rubber bullets and tear gas into peaceful protesters, what do you think is going to happen? So this is the familiar framing I'm speaking about. It is sweeping, moralized, and designed to close the case before the public ever looks at the individual facts. It leaves no room for nuance, no room for overreach, and no room for the possibility that the government used a real national crisis to justify treating very different people as if they were all the same. That is the central problem. Yes, January 6th was chaotic. But not every person there behaved irresponsibly, especially, as Jade and I always say, the people that adhered to the velvet ropes inside the Capitol building. Both of these things can be true at once. January 6th was a serious and chaotic day, and many nonviolent individuals and their families were treated in ways that raised profound moral, legal, and constitutional questions afterward. And that's the part too many people still refuse to understand. Because behind these cases were real people, husbands, fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, sisters, veterans, grandparents, and families whose lives were scattered while the political narrative turned into one evil symbol instead of human beings. This is why Chuck Schumer went apoplectic. He lost his mind when Tucker Carlson on Fox News showed the videos from the January 6th, right? The videos from government that the Speaker of the House released to him, showing the shaman. Remember him? That guy, right? Showed the shaman did not bust through a window to get in, which is their narrative and what they convicted him on, but showed him walking in with the hundreds of others when the doors were opened by Capitol Police. He said, there he is. He's walking in right there. And Chuck Schumer then demanded that Fox News shut that down and stop Tucker Carlson, right? Because he said he's lying. Wait a minute. A video does not lie. If the guy came in, and then Tucker even showed, he said, this is the video that they showed in court saying that he went through the window. So I see these people smashing on a window, right? But the shaman wasn't anywhere to be found. I'm looking at that thing and I'm going, where the hell? And that's what Tucker said. He goes, where is he? I don't see him. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. And then they show him walking down the halls with what looks like a police escort.
Yeah.
Escort. Thank you.
He was escorted and then he even thanked them. If you remember, he even thanked them. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Enrique Tarrio.
Yeah, Enrique Tarrio. Yeah, he was the gay Puerto Rican and some other thing. And they say he was an evil far right winger. Okay. All right. You know what the Proud Boys are famous for? You know what they're famous for? Going to religious, what do they call them? Revivals, right? And they'll go there. It'll be in a park, and the Christians all come, and they go there. And they waited for the Antifa people to come and try to attack, and they defended the people. That's what they're famous for. Okay?
And this guy, he's Puerto Rican, gay, and what was the other thing?
I forget.
But
and you know what?
He doesn't have enough victim points to be
right. We MAGA, we don't give a rat's ass about that. We never did. Well, they do. Oh, the left definitely cares about it. They put everybody in a box.
Being conservative cancels out most of your victim points.
There you go. Yeah, buried 99% of the videos. I know. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it was an FBI. Yeah, it was run by the FBI, as a matter of fact. They admitted later on, what did they have, like 24 informants among the crowd?
Well, that was the first figure. I think it was up closer to like 100 after a while.
Really? Wow. I didn't hear that. Yeah.
The first figure, yeah, I mean, it's a long time that I've thought about this, but I remember the first figure that came out was they had at least 24 assets. Not necessarily agents, but assets.
But the thing is that the Proud Boys, I mean, they never started a fight. It was never that way. But the left always replied. the left always like they wrote them up as if they were evil guys that just went in and started bashing brains. They never mentioned that it was at a religious a revival meeting or whatever, right? And that Antifa and other leftists went there to disrupt them and beat them with, whatever their hockey sticks, whatever the hell they brought with them, and that the Proud Boys would beat their asses back. But they never went there to mess with Christians, they would have never got their asses kicked. But the press wrote them as if they were evil people because they were very rough guys. Don't mess with them, right? And the Oath Keepers, same thing, right? The Oath Keepers never did crimes. They're not like, and why is it they're always far right? There's never like, they're from the right. No, they're far right. How come it's never far left? You never hear like far left congressman or senator, Adam Schiff for brains. You never hear that. It's always far right. Anyway, let me get to the point. So when Cynthia Hughes and others talk about the need to look at these cases individually, this is what they mean. Ready? Just do the Tarrio one. They mean look at it, Enrique Tarrio, who was not even at the Capitol that day, and asking how a man could be sent to prison on a theory so expansive that many Americans came away believing words, associations, and political identity had become enough to destroy a life. They mean looking at Zachary Rail and understanding that while the country argued over headlines, his wife gave birth to their daughter, and he lost irreplaceable years with his newborn child. They mean looking at Thomas Caldwell, a retired lieutenant commander who never entered the Capitol, yet still found himself jailed and publicly cast as a dangerous player in something the actual facts don't support. What about Ashley Babbitt and Roseanne Boyle? I'm ad-libbing here. What about those two? They like to say, like Joe Biden as president said like multiple times, 11, the number kept right. 11 police officers lost their lives that day. Not a single cop died on January 6th. Not a single one. The only two that died was Ashley Babbitt and Roseanne Boyle. They don't want to mention their names.
Yeah. Hey, Ashley Babbitt, say her name.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They mean looking at Kenneth Harrelson and asking how someone who did so little still ended up caught in a prosecution this aggressive. I'm surprised at the time they didn't take my boss. We don't have to read anymore. I was writing for David Harris Jr. at the time, and he was there. He actually gave a speech on stage with Trump at the time. And when they said that they were arresting people, he was doing his show. They didn't kick him off this platform yet. And he was doing a show, and he goes, look, they're going after people. He goes, yeah, I was there. He goes, but if the FBI wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them. He goes, but I can't tell them anything. I never went to the Capitol. He goes, my wife and I were tired after we did the speech, and we went straight to the hotel, and we can prove that with CCTV. And so they never went after him. But they did go after another friend of mine, which is the walkaway campaign. Brandon Strzok, that's it. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. Brandon Strzok, I've written like 3 stories about him. I talked to him on the phone. Real sweetheart of a guy, nice guy. And he did the walkaway campaign. He never went. He wasn't even on the side of the building where they breached, okay? He never went inside either. And yet they grabbed him up. Why? Because he was responsible for over 380,000 Democrats quitting the party with his walkaway campaign. That's why they went after him. And as a matter of fact, he let me listen. Like I was listening on my phone through his phone. He had it on during his sentencing hearing, and we heard everything that went on. And I was just there listening to it. Hey, what's up, Louie? Good to see you. You're late, brother. What's up, man? Good to see you. I think I sent you a text with the link. Yeah. But I mean, that whole thing was an operation, was it not?
What don't you understand about peacefully and patriotically?
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to walk down there. I've said it before. Their violence is free speech, and our free speech is violence.
Yeah, I'm going to do this one. All right, this is about Protestants and Catholics. Okay, so here we go. This is going to be interesting, guys. It has to be read. This is from the Federalist. Okay, it's Catholics and Protestants are going to need each other for what's coming. We're all Christians. Okay. Whatever our theological differences, our common enemy is the radical left, which seeks to persecute Christians of all kinds. There are things going on behind closed doors right now where they're setting up to create things like, like remember vaccine passports, which was really to exclude people. Well, they're doing the same thing. They want to do it to Christians. All right. And we are still a Christian nation. So this is just a heads up that this guy wrote. So the theological fault lines that divide America's 50 million or so Catholics from its roughly 130 million Protestants have been largely set aside when it comes to politics in the Trump era, if only because most practicing Christians in the United States understand that they have a common foe in the secular left. When Democrats are openly trying to drive all forms of Christian piety from the public square and impose what amounts to a neo-pagan morality, it tends to focus one's attention on the near enemy. But not this week. President Trump's diatribe against Pope Leo over the weekend and the ensuing fallout triggered an online fracas between Catholics and Protestants that exposed those fault lines and called into question the durability of the conservative coalition that has twice sent Trump to the White House. Many Catholics were understandably outraged at Trump's crude attack of Pope Leo for opposing both the Iran war and his administration's immigration policies. Catholics, of course, believe the Pope is the spiritual father of the faithful, and to some extent, the Catholic reaction against Trump's attack was an expression of filial piety. Well, I forgot my catechism keywords, but there was also a sense that Trump was simply being unfair, that the leader of the Catholic Church would oppose a war choice by the United States. I was just going to say it wouldn't come as a surprise. In 2003, an aged Pope John Paul II, my favorite pope, forcefully opposed the Iraq war in terms similar to those Pope Leo has used. War is not always inevitable. It is always a defeat for humanity. Immigration law, international law, honest dialogue, solidarity between states, the noble exercises of diplomacy. These are methods worthy of individuals and nations in resolving their differences. Now, I fully agree with that. Okay, I had no problem with the Pope saying that.
If you're dealing with the other side being sane.
Right, but I don't have a problem with him saying, look, Pope, the war should be a last thing, right? And it is for Trump. Like, oh, no way, he went after Iran. Well, it was a last-ditch effort to stop them. They had 60% uranium. I mean, it's just a month away, less than, to get it to a bomb. All right, they were that close. All right, so that I could agree with. But the immigration policies, no. Sorry, we don't live in the Vatican. No, we live in the United States of America. We have laws. Those laws say that you are not allowed to come in here.
You ever notice that the Vatican has a wall?
Yeah, they do. It's very true. Did you know that the Pope is not just the head of the Catholic Church? He's also a politician. He's the governor of Vatican City.
Yeah, he's the head of state of the Vatican State.
Yeah, it's a country. All right, and he's the governor of it. All right. For their part, many Protestants were rankled by the Vatican's criticism of the Trump administration and thought Pope Leo had it coming. Some noted, not unfairly, that the Pope never seems to speak as sharply, specifically about Democrat presidents who flout Catholic teaching on abortion, gay marriage, and much else. That is 100% true. Now, why is that? Others simply because the Pope wants to be loved by the media. Others simply lambasted the Pope as a hippie or a commie. I didn't hear that. Essentially deploying the same brain-dead invective as the president did. Still, others expressed the misguided opinion that the Pope should stick to religion, stay out of politics, forgetting that politics concerns morality and justice and the ultimate ends of man, and therefore implicates religion. And how could any religious leader stay out of politics when the American president threatens to destroy an entire civilization? That's not what he did. Oh, my God. That was a negotiation tactic. And you know what? I think we played last week. There was an Iranian woman that said, no, we asked for this. We are happy he's blowing up buildings. We asked for this for years, right? So this was the immediate context for the online sniping between Catholics and Protestants this week. I didn't really see much of that, though. But the sniping is part of a growing tension between the two groups over theological differences. We saw this over the Easter holiday, for example, amid reports of record numbers of adult Catholic conversions. We see it too in the discourse over Christian nationalism and the ongoing debates about Christian Zionism and anti-Semitism. Okay. Some of this tension is simply a consequence of social media, but much of it is the natural consequence of the collapse of political liberalism, which is exposing old religious disputes as the West enters an era of re-enchantment. There's revivals going on. Jesus is being loved again in the United States, okay? And you can thank the Democrats for that. After the Biden years, when people just feel that nobody in power gives a shit about them, they look up. Liberalism falsely claims to have resolved that age-old tension, but it obviously hasn't. And now it's reappearing. As religion regains its salience in American public life, so too will the religious differences between Catholics and Protestants. That could pose a political problem for conservatives in both religious camps that have, over the past decade, managed to overcome their theological differences and coalesce around a Trumpist GOP. I myself am a Catholic convert from evangelical Protestantism. I'm the opposite of that, by the way. So I'm thoroughly acquainted with these differences. Me too. They are deep and persistent and in some ways unbridgeable. I never felt that. But I say this with all conviction and sincerity. We have to set them aside right now, if not for the sake of brotherly comedy, then for the sake of common survival. This is the part that I wanted to get to. Simply put, the left is waiting to eat us alive. In an era of Republican governance, it's easy to forget that half the country, more or less, rejects our religious convictions and worldview. That includes a significant cohort that's actively hostile towards the Christian faith. Whatever our inter-Christian conflicts, they pale in comparison to the conflict awaiting us when Democrats take power again. That is so true. And unlike Christians, leftist ideologues have no qualms about using coercive force to compel belief or at least compliance with their secular religion, which is liberalism. Everywhere they wield power today, in fact, they are pursuing coercive force against Christians. That's the noise I'm talking about. Whatever you're doing right now, what are you doing? That's what I'm talking. I hear it's like when you hit.
I just moved my water bottle. That was it.
All right, cool. Now, I just wanted to say that's what I heard. So, all right. So, in New York, an order of Catholic nuns that has spent more than a century caring for the dying poor has been forced to sue Kathy Hochul over a new law that would force the nuns to affirm and submit to LGBT ideology. They forgot the Q plus and that little symbol that sometimes goes over Spanish letters and words. All right. Can you believe this shit? Ideology that contradicts their Catholic faith. First Amendment, anyone? The Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne have quietly cared for dying cancer patients for 125 years at Rosary Hill Home in Mount Pleasant, about 30 miles northwest of Manhattan. They have done so without problems until 2 years ago when they began receiving letters from the state's public health agency accusing them of violating a 2023 state law requiring long-term care facilities to affirm residents' gender identity, use preferred pronouns, and open bathrooms to either sex. Guys, this is why I say we have absolutely nothing in common with progressives. Nothing. We liberals and conservatives can get along because we have shared goals. I say this all the time. Liberals say they don't want dirty air and water. We don't want dirty air and water. We just differ about how we get there. The liberals always say that government force would be the best way, and we say capitalism would be a better approach because you don't have to force anybody to do anything, right? Capitalism means you're going to make money if you create better filters on smokestacks in manufacturing plants, things like that, right? But with the left, when they come in, that's a whole new ball game, right? They're talking about wanting men in dresses getting into bathrooms. That's what they're talking about, right? Things like that. I mean, craziness. So I'm agreeing with this whole thing that the Christians, Catholics are Christians, Protestants are Christians. We got to band together on this, or else we're going to lose. Because now I just saw reports that in Florida, Governor DeSantis they had to pass a law, and he signed it, that There will be no Sharia law in the state of Florida. No Sharia law. A lot of governors are doing it. Texas did it because who knew, right? Down in the Orlando area, there's like all these, there's like 250 mosques in the area now. They're all moving in. In Texas, they have this humongous estate that they built, and Texas is going to shut it down because it's only for Muslims, and they can't claim that they're. What is going on? I'm sorry, I just keep hearing like it sounds really loud. They have all these Muslims that are like they're trying to use our laws, the First Amendment, and saying no, we're allowed to have Sharia law. You can't. That's our religion. You can't stop. Well, bullshit. So this will go all to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court hopefully will say, well, you know what? We are under the constitutional law, because then someday, what if the Supreme Court comes under Sharia law, right? Of course, there are no such patients under the care of these nuns, and no actual complaints on file against Rosary Hill Home. The state of New York is targeting these sisters because they don't subscribe to the state religion. As a lawyer for the nuns said, quote, "It's the state requiring these holy nuns to bend the knee to an ideology contrary to their faith." So how come it's never the other way around? Like I believe there are two genders. You have to say that, or I'm going to call the police. It's always the other way around. There's 76 genders, and you got to remember every single one for every single damn person you come across. It's just never that way. The lawsuit calls to mind a unanimous 2021 Supreme Court case that found the city of Philadelphia had violated the free exercise rights of Catholic social services. I remember that, when it tried to exclude it from the city's foster care program for not certifying same-sex couples as foster parents on religious grounds. Here again, Democrat politicians targeted Catholics for refusing to compromise their faith and adopt the left's LGBT ideology. New York State will likely lose its case for the same reason Philadelphia lost, but it won't stop Democrats from pushing the limits of their power everywhere they can. That's another thing. Jade, think about this. Every time a court tells Democrats you can't do that, so for a couple of years they don't do it, and then they start doing it again. And instead of enforcing them and saying, hey, you just broke the law, right, and charging them with a crime, no, we got to take it through the courts again, and then we get some libtard judge that's, you know what, I'm going to allow it, and then we got to go all the way to the Supreme Court. That shouldn't happen anymore, but that's what they rely on. Consider a new law passed by Democrat-controlled Virginia, here we go, and signed into law this week by Governor Abigail CIA Spanberger, that would strip tax-exempt nonprofit status from Confederacy-related groups in the state. While not a religious case exactly, the target of this law is a group disfavored by the left, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, a philanthropic organization founded in 1894 by the descendants of Confederate veterans. Today, it mostly runs food banks and homeless shelters. Let me do a little digression here. When Ruth Bader Ginsburg was having her judiciary Senate hearing, right, her confirmation hearing, the chairman of that was Joe Biden, Senator Joe Biden. And for whatever reason, I've never seen the before or the after of this video. There's a video out there that I have that I can play for you of him saying that the daughters of the Confederacy, right? That's how they're known. They don't throw United in it. That the daughters, because somebody mentioned it, and he said, look, he said, I know the people in the Daughters of the Confederacy. There's some very fine people. He literally said, very fine people.
You can get in trouble for saying that.
I know. And I was pointing that out and playing the video everywhere I could at that time when he said very fine people in the Charlottesville speech, right? And I said, where the hell were you guys when he said that? They didn't care. All right. So yet Virginia Democrats consider such groups whose members are mostly history buffs and American patriots to be extremists. Plus, okay, the Confederacy was a part of our history. You can't see Marxists. That's why when the St. George Floyd riots happened, right? That's why they were toppling statues. Communists always do that. They take down paintings, they topple statues because they want to zero out. They want to blank. They want to kill the past. They don't want you to have a memory of who those people were. So they were not only knocking down the Confederacy, they were knocking down George Washington, and they were knocking down statues of people who fought against slavery and whatnot, and against the Confederacy. Not even really. They just wanted to topple everything because that's what communists do, right? And so you had a bunch of people at the Charlottesville event that weren't Klansmen. They just wanted the park to be left alone because it was a part of their heritage. All right, so honoring one's Confederate ancestors or even acknowledging them is now reason enough to be targeted by the state. That's a dangerous message to send, especially considering that in the summer of 2020, the group's headquarters in Richmond was attacked by arsonists who caused millions of dollars in damage, including the destruction of irreplaceable artifacts during BLM riots that followed the death of St. George Floyd. Unknown assailants not only firebombed the building, but defaced it with graffiti and broke windows. No one was ever arrested or charged. Let me get down to that. So this kind of thing will never stop. As soon as Democrats win the White House or take control of Congress, we will see more targeting of Christians and conservatives. And the attacks will likely be even more brazen and vicious. They say that we are the ones that are causing all the chaos. I haven't seen us attack anyone. What groups do conservatives attack? Now, Trump is going after people for accountability now because they broke the law. Okay, but we don't just come out and go, you know what, I don't like that group over there, you know, those gay guys that like ferns. No, we're going to go after them. You know, we don't do stuff like that. What's coming, here's the part, what's coming is worse, much worse than the Pope criticizing Trump or Trump attacking the Pope. The religious fighting between Catholics and Protestants is nothing compared to the coming war between leftist neo-pagans and all faithful Christians. All of this is not to say Catholics and Protestants should paper over their religious differences or that those differences don't matter. As liberalism dies, there will come a time of reckoning between Catholics and Protestants, but that time is not now. Now is the time to stand together and fight. Our common enemy is at the gates. What do you guys think of that? Jade?
Interesting. You know, my question is, they go after these religious people, but they don't go after the Islamists.
Oh, of course, because they're afraid that they'll kill them and behead them. I mean, think about it.
Or that they won't vote for them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
See, the Democrats have put themselves in bed with groups, which has worked for them for a while.
Yeah.
And they once they got a group, they just figured, okay, so they had the black vote, and they had the Hispanic vote, and they had the unions, and they had the white middle class. So now they ignore all those. Well, we've got those. Why do we need to worry about them, you know?
Right.
And
exactly.
now what they're concentrating on is illegal aliens and Muslims.
Right.
Except they don't realize that especially Hispanics have turned away, and a lot of blacks have turned away considerably too.
Exactly. Well, you know what you're describing? You're describing what's called the Marxist model. Okay. The Marxist model is that you have small groups, splinter groups, that by themselves, they don't have enough power to get power. They're not big enough to get power, right? Power's in numbers. So what they do is they get groups like you had the Islam faction that got with the LGBTQ. Yes, they did. All right. And then they got with the people, you know, the ferns people. I always pick on ferns, but they got with the black groups, the Hispanic group, all the left-wing groups got together, and then they fought for years to get power. Once they got power, what happened? Remember when they were saying that American mothers and fathers at PTA meetings, they were domestic terrorists, right? You should have seen the Muslims. The Muslims were the ones out there in those meetings saying, you are not putting men in my daughter's bathroom. I'll stand outside that bathroom. I mean, they were doing it.
Yeah, and
right?
they were telling them that, no, you're not teaching my kids this. This was in Dearborn.
Hold on. 40. We're talking about the United States. We're just talking about conservative Christians in the United States. We're not talking about the world. Yeah, we're talking about Christians in the United States have always been targets of the left. But the left now realizes that that globalism is dead. They're not going to be able to revive it. And that the big push, it's like a cornered rat will jump out at you. Well, that's what they're doing. They're in that phase right now. And they want, I mean, we had Rice, Susan Rice, that went on a television program and said, we're going after you when we get back in. This is not going to be, oh, well, we'll have hearings. No, we're going after you. She said, we're going to start with any corporation that attacked or that bent the knee to Trump. We're going to attack you. We're going after you. We're going to put you out of business for doing that. Now, if they're saying that about corporations, what do you think they're going to do about the conservative Christians in the United States? That's who we're talking about. Yeah, we're not talking about, globally. So the guy was saying that in the United States, the Catholics and the Protestants, you have to go back to teaming up together because we all have the same God, right? I mean, I believe so.
And it doesn't seem to be the same God as Muslims have.
Yeah, that's true, Linda. And the thing was, like in the United States, when they had the separation of church and state, it wasn't. Jefferson did not mean that you can't have like religious things inside government. That's not what he meant at all. I mean, why did he create a church in the Capitol building then, and then the War Department, then the Treasury Department? He had 3 churches going in D.C. It's ludicrous to think that he meant that. He meant a separation between the federal government and the states with their adopted religions. That's what he meant. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so what I believe the article was, it was about, look, the left is our enemy. In America, the Christians, I knew you would, 40. I know. Because I know you, I know your religion, man, and I was there too. I mean, we're all Christians, bro. It's just that in the States, we can't bicker among ourselves like that. It's like right now this is not religion, but you had the fucking the what's it called, the influencers, the so-called MAGA America First influencers that all turned on Trump. Right? I mean, why? Because they were getting big money from people, because now they're established. They're the influencers for America First, and somebody wants to take over America First. So they got the influencers to do it. I can't wait until that money comes out. Like Tucker Carlson bought a house in Qatar. Now he says, well, because I wanted to prove that I can buy a house anywhere I want. Well, who didn't think you could? But he bought a house in Qatar. Why?
That's a lame excuse of a reason. Yeah,
I know. Like, why? Why'd you buy a house in Qatar? Did you get money from them to say the things you're saying now? Right?
Who smacked Tucker Carlson in the head?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I liked him so much, but now he's just like, he's anti-Trump. Some MTG, she's another one that went Looney Tunes. Candace Owens. I mean, all these guys, I used to love them. Now they're just Alex Jones. Are you kidding me? He's anti-Trump now. He's out there saying Trump is needs the 25th Amendment and all that. What? Think about this, guys. Did you ever think Alex Jones? I don't care how outrageous he gets. He's like 98% right most of the time, right? The 2% he's talking about UFOs, and he may even be right about that, right? CIA. Oh, you think so? Yeah. You know what? He was. Yeah, you're right. He absolutely was. He was CIA. He had a lot of shit going on, but they have text messages of Tucker that just revealed where he said, I effing hate Donald Trump multiple times. He hated Donald Trump. And then supposedly they had, they got back together again, and now he hates him again, so fuck him. Who needs him? Now, who the hell needs him? I just don't like it when, see, every time conservatives get power, instead of working on that power to completely stamp out the left, they fight amongst themselves because they want their little faction to be the ones who are going to, that's a Marxist model then, right? If you say, well, I got Christians here and I got, I got Catholics here, I got Protestants here, we got a couple Buddhists that are conservatives, voted for Trump, well, use that to stick together because the enemy is a common libnut, right? So why are you going to fracture a movement?
Yeah, the biggest problem is the Republicans get power and they get power, and all they do is stand there wringing their hands.
Yeah,
that's the problem right there.
Hold on. All right. So hang on. I'm going to show a video in a minute, but I'm going to do another one. Where is it? Okay. Let's see. The reason I voted for rationality to unite us. Yeah. Reason and yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is leftists in the right camp. Yep, that's right. Bigger fish to fry. Exactly. When were those fighting in the U.S.? Yeah, there's some areas where Catholics they were sniping at each other, and sniping online and social media in Crazy Town, right, gets out of hand. And then you'll pick other reasons why you don't like that person, and then while we're fighting ourselves, the left runs roughshod over the country. That's what the guy was saying. In the United States, we got to keep our heads about us. We are all Christians under Christ, right? So that was that. So, all right. So I'm going to play this video, and I just came across it yesterday, and I just loved it for you Christians. Okay, so let's go here. So here we go.
This, for real, I think might be the greatest 3 minutes of preaching that has ever occurred that I've seen.
Wow.
From a dude named Alistair Begg. You're going to hear it in a second. He's Scottish. Makes him sound real awesome. Sounds like Braveheart's preaching the gospel to you. It's real great.
So that to go to the old Fort Lauderdale question, if you were to die tonight and you were getting entry into heaven, what would you say? If you answer that, and if I answer it in the first person, we've immediately gone wrong. Because I believed, because I have faith, because I am this, because I am continuing. Loved ones, the only proper answer is in the third person, because he. Think about the thief on the cross. And what an immense, I can't wait to find that fellow one day to ask him, how did that shake out for you? Because you were cussing the guy out with your friend. You'd never been in a Bible study. You never got baptized. You didn't know a thing about church membership, and yet you made it. You made it. How did you make it? That's what the angel must have said. What are you doing here? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, because I don't know. Well, excuse me, let me get my supervisor. Go get the supervisor, Ranger.
Angel.
So, wait, just a few questions for you. First of all, are you clear on the doctrine of justification by faith? The guy said, I never heard of it in my life. And what about? Let's just go to the doctrine of Scripture immediately. This guy's just staring, and eventually, in frustration, he says, "On what basis are you here?" And he said, the man on the middle cross said, I can come.
The man on the middle cross said, I could come.
Wow.
For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. This is not of your undoing. It is the gift of God.
What'd you think?
For Christians, that's pretty much the truth.
I thought it was great.
I mean, there's no way to the Father but through me.
Go see your song yet. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right?
There's no path to the Father but through me.
Right. Exactly. And but the guy in the middle cross said, I can come. And that is just...
I mean, that's the essence of all Christian faiths. It's that it doesn't matter what we do or don't do as a human being. It's what Christ has set up.
Let me see. Carl Jung viewed Jesus Christ primarily as the supreme Western symbol or the archetype of the self, representing psychological wholeness, integration, and union of opposites. Is that what you meant, Special K? I actually read a lot of him. I like him, Carl Jung, when I was younger. Yeah, I read a lot of him. All right, let's get into it.
And you know it's Young, not Jung.
Well, I always said Jung, so I'm always going to say, I know it's Young. I say, I am the way, the truth, and the light. No man. Yeah, that's what Jay just said. Except through the sun. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that is the essence of Christian belief.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now we're going to get back into Swalwell because it's Peter Schweitzer who's going to give us some inside baseball. Peter Schweitzer wrote a lot of books. He just wrote one about Mexico, the government of Mexico. Like I talked about this before. Was it China and England have two? What do they call them? Not. Oh shit. It begins with a C. I can't think of the word now. They're not embassies. Consulates. Woo. Thank you. They each have two consulates in the United States. Right. Mexico has 59. Why? You got one in each state. Hold on. Dr. Jade, I am the way. Oh, there it is. Yeah. What's it called? They have 59 because in each one of them, they have people who are working to, like, they were the ones that were funding a lot of the anti-ICE stuff. And they're on par with La Raza, which is the Hispanic group, the Mexican group that wants to take back Arizona, California, Texas, New Mexico, right? And they said they're going to legally do it because they're going to get enough people, illegals, into those states that they're going to take it over. That's what their thoughts are. And we're allowing this shit. Well, he wrote a book about it, and it's pretty devastating to their cause. So it's all just politics. Representative Eric Swalwell's sudden political death was no accident, but a strategic. If this guy says it, you can trust it. I've read nearly every one of his books, and he's never been wrong as far as I know from anything he says. So it was no political action, but a strategic hit job by an unethical California Democratic Party and its media enablers. Swalwell was pushed out for strategic purposes. And he says, that's what we're getting to. We already talked about it, but I want his take. Call it the law of the jungle. In this case, Swalwell was running strongly in the lead up to California's June 2 jungle primary election for governor, which will eliminate all but the two top two vote getters of either political party, who then advance in the November election. With so many Democrat candidates splitting support, Republican Steve Helton was leading in state polls, so someone had to go. All right. Well, this is why they do this kind of stuff. Why do states like that, like Alaska, they got that whatever the hell it's called, where it's what do they call that, Jade?
Ranked choice.
Thank you. Ranked choice voting. Where if you're like the number 2 person in the first call, you can win. It makes no sense. And it's all because politicians want to rig the system. And the people aren't going to scream because they want it rigged too for Democrats. So before this scandal, well, wait a minute. I'll start here. On the Drill Down podcast, Schweitzer and co-host Eric Eggers review the body count and identify which ethically challenged members will be next to go. Before this scandal really took off, Steve Hilton, a Republican, led in the polling with 22%. Can you imagine? That's leading in the polling, 22%. Eric Swalwell had 18%, and Chad Bianco, a Republican sheriff in California, was in 3rd place. Along come these allegations against Swalwell. Swalwell's multiple extramarital affairs, including with the Chinese spy known as Fang Fang, while he served in the House. See, it didn't happen when he was there. Intelligence Committee were known in Democrat and political press circles for years as San Francisco political journalist and author Steve Tavares, who first covered Swalwell as a local official in the Bay Area, recently said. Suddenly, the whispers became a roar in just a few days. Swalwell suspended his campaign for governor, resigning from Congress a day later. I never thought he'd resign from Congress. Quote, bottom line, this is not cleaning house. This was a political assassination designed to preserve the gubernatorial office in California for Democrats. That's what I said. Good. Now, the odds to win it favor Tom Steyer, the billionaire, who is looking right now as somebody who has a pretty good chance of becoming governor of California. He's another George Soros, by the way. But this is Congress, America's only native criminal class, as Mark Twain once said. So the backroom deals were already flying. Texas Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez also under fire for admitting a past affair with one of his congressional staffers, who later committed suicide, by the way. I don't have the deets on that, why she did. Hastily announced his immediate retirement from office on Monday. The Swalwell story is the California Democrats' version of the Joe Biden senility story, says Eggers. President Biden's mental decline was discussed quietly for 3 years in Washington, yet Democrats defended him as fully engaged until his debate performance in June of 2024 exposed his frailty. Suddenly, the calls by Democrats for him to drop his reelection bid exploded from thin air. Like Biden, Eric Swalwell was suddenly no longer useful to Democrats, right? He went against the supremacy, except as a bargaining chip when paired against Gonzalez with congressional Republicans to maintain the balance of power in the House. What Gonzalez should have done was not run for re-election, Schweitzer says. Previously, he did not step down because if he had resigned, it would have erased that one vote majority for Republicans in the House. It's not like Republicans were pushing hard for him to resign. With Swalwell's paired resignation, the balance is maintained. No one ever thought of that. There was already another house cleaning swap taking shape involving two Florida representatives. Democratic Representative Sheila McCormick is under an ethics committee investigation for a brace of charges that she violated campaign finance law. She has already been criminally charged by the Justice Department with stealing FEMA grant funds and funneling them to her political campaign. Quote, she was the CEO of a healthcare services company during COVID, and then a state agency mistakenly gave her company about $5 million extra dollars worth of FEMA relief funds. Across the aisle, Florida Republican Corey Mills is under ethics committee investigation on charges he violated campaign finance laws, misused congressional resources, and engaged in sexual misconduct or dating violence. What is dating? All right. House Speaker Mike Johnson said Tuesday he would review an ongoing investigation into whether Mills, the Republican from Florida, committed an assault and benefited from federal contracts while in office. There is an incentive for members who are under ethical fire to resign rather than dig in and force a vote by the full House to censor or expel him. As Schweitzer notes, quote, the rule is, if you are, these are the little inside baseball things we never hear about. The rule is, if you are a current sitting member of Congress, those reports will be publicly released. If you resign or retire, however, they will not. Now you know why Matt Gaetz, that's why he did when he was in Congress, okay? He was the subject of an ethics investigation, allegations of sexual misconduct in some form or another. Right before the report was going to come out, he resigned from Congress, so it would never be publicly released. So as far as Eric Swalwell is concerned, Swalwell ends well. Ha! That's pretty good. So there's a little inside baseball as to why they had to get rid of him and why he wanted to leave himself. How about that?
I have to hear this story about Boasberg.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Vindictive. Yeah, I want to hear that too, actually. Yeah, I read very few of these. I look at the headlines and I go, yeah, that'll be a good story. All right. So vindictive, Trump-hating judge. This is, guys, from across the seas, this is the a-hole judge that is giving Trump so many problems. He's been smacked down by appellate courts, and he's been smacked down by the Supreme Court. And he's like Biden. He gives a double barrel to the Supreme Court on the one case where he said that you got to turn that flight around and bring all those guys back. They're like, screw you. We followed your rule to the letter of the law. The thing was, he said, no, you did not. Here, he wrote in the law something, but then he said something completely different. There's no law that says that you have to comply with the words of a judge. We're a contracts law-based society. So they followed to the letter of the law that he wrote in the ruling. All right. But he tried to give Trump a hard time anyway. He's this district judge that always rules national rulings. You can't do that. And that's what the court told him, the Supreme Court told him to stop doing, but he does it anyway. The Obama-appointed judge, guilty, has a pattern of corner cutting that just happens to support the deep state's power grabs every single time. All right, here we go. It's always good to see out-of-control judicial activists get smacked down, especially by their own peers. Which brings us to Judge James Boasberg, who's done more than any of them to try to shut down President Trump's legitimate power to govern. He is the donkey seat now. He's in the donkey seat now, berated by a higher court for his abuse of power, as they put it, according to the Washington Times. A federal appeals court delivered an embarrassing spanking to the district judge, James, he doesn't care, on Tuesday, ordering him to shut down his intrusive criminal contempt of court investigation. I think that's what I was just talking about, was the case he's talking about. He won't let it go. In other words, the Supreme Court said you did not have the authority to tell them to turn a plane around. That's not your jurisdiction. And he said, okay, I accept that. But now I'm going after them because they violated my illegal order. That's what this asshole is doing, right? The Court of Appeals said not only is Judge Boasberg's continued investigation improper, but his reasoning for why Trump officials could be prosecuted for contempt of court is a dead end because the judge is misreading his own orders. Circuit Judge Naomi Rao said Judge Boasberg has crossed too many lines, risking damage to the separation of powers between the president and the courts. Finally, we have some judges with common sense. Boasberg, recall, is the judge who told us what he was about when he gave former FBI attorney probation for literally altering a CIA email in order to obtain a FISA warrant. You remember that? To spy on the Trump campaign operative, claiming that Kleinsmith likely believed the information was true because he made it so and simply took an inappropriate shortcut. That was bullshit. Kleinsmith should have done time for that. What kind of ace judicial reasoning is that in what all the other FBI and federal employees understood very well was a jail time offense? Anybody believe a request for an FBI FISA warrant is what it says it is after that one? Exactly. Right? He actually changed the documentation to make it mean something else. By 2025, Boasberg was well on his way to other abuses of power, ordering the Trump administration to halt the deportation of Venezuelan illegal aliens accused of being gang members to El Salvador, which was well within the Department of Homeland Security's powers to do, as the government of Venezuela refused to take them back. And the written law says that when that is the case, the illegals can be repatriated to another country. Being gang members, the only good place for them was El Salvador's famous prison for them. They have a prison for gang members. His ego wounded, he ordered the plane to be turned around mid-flight, as if that were practical and doable, something that might be reasonable if these were defectors from North Korea facing death if they didn't. But under Boasberg, criminals were just as precious and important. And when the flight didn't come back, he launched his contempt of court case against the Trump administration, really wanting those thugs to be brought back to America just because the Trump administration didn't. Can you believe this shit? So CNN, the decision comes nearly a year after Boasberg, the chief judge of the federal trial level court in D.C., said in a blockbuster ruling that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt for defying his orders that were shot down by the Supreme Court to temporarily halt the deportation of migrants under a powerful wartime authority invoked by President Donald Trump. Let's get further down. The district court proposed, this is citing angry judges. The district court proposes to probe high-level executive branch deliberations about matters of national security and diplomacy. These proceedings are a clear abuse of discretion, Judge Naomi Ray and Justin Walker said in the unsigned opinion. They don't have to sign it, and it doesn't mean anything either. The district court has launched an intrusive criminal contempt investigation into whether the government acted willfully when it transferred suspected Tren de Aragua members to Salvadoran custody. Of course they did. But the end of this investigation is a legal dead end, which is pretty humiliating. Probably not to the average Joe on the street, but among Boasberg's peers, getting smacked down like that by a higher court over not following or understanding the basic rules of the game is the kind of thing incompetent miscreants get. Now he has to follow the law the same as everyone else, thanks to some better class judges above him who know how to sort out his petty little egotistic games and great desire for power. Good move.
Yeah, but he won't.
He won't. You're right. That's the point. You're exactly right. He won't. He's going to be another dick.
Yeah, until they remove his judgeship.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Here, let's go back to the last one. Linda says, we have preferential voting. It's a goddamn nightmare with these traitorous wretch. Oh, and they found a box of ballots 2 weeks after the One Nation candidate won in South Australia. That happens here. They magically find like 25,000 ballots, which ironically is exactly what Joe Biden needed to win. That was just a coinkydink, right?
Well, I'm sure your friend Mark has seen these videos, but I remember watching a video in after the 2020 election
right.
out of Georgia, where when at some point, I think after I think this is the one they said, oh, we're done. The inspectors, the other party referees they dismissed them. And then at one point, when a woman walks over and starts pulling a table that's been there covered all day, she pulls it over and takes the cover off, and there's boxes and boxes and boxes of ballots.
Yeah.
And then I remember another one. You see this woman putting ballots through the machine.
Oh, yeah.
She takes them at the other end and she straightens them up. You figure she's going to put them in another box.
Nope.
She walks them back around and puts them through again.
Yeah, and she was able to do that because the Dominion machine allows you to shut off the QR code check. And that's what they did. Yeah, that's why Mark and I, for a couple shows, I wore the shirt that had the national password to the Dominion voting machines. We had shirts made, right? And I wore it. I still have it. But he was involved in a case where there was a machine that was discarded. So you're allowed to grab it then in the trash, and they did. There's a law says you put something in the trash, guess what? You gave up the right to it. It's not yours anymore, right? And a whole brouhaha happened, but they found out that I don't know how they got away with this, because this is a violation of law. You can't have a database where money is involved, because money is involved in elections, right? You can't have a database where for the user ID's the user's password, where it's not encrypted. I mean, I used to use MD5, which is like the simplest one, but I had encryption in there, right, to make it at least tough for a hacker to get the info. Theirs was straight up text. You could see their user ID and password. And the reason they have that is because suppose a worker gets in there and he can see it. He's in the admin area. Well, most people have the same user ID and password on Amazon, eBay, all kinds of sites, and they'll just break in and start charging stuff, right? But Dominion had that. Unreal. All right, let's play a video. Let's get see if I got any fun stuff in there this week. I think I do. Anything but the jab. Oh yeah. Katie Couric. This is a very ironic video because she's flabbergasted about the cancer rates in the country. I'm going to get past the commercials. Hang on. It's a rumble. All right. Here we go. She curses a lot on her podcast too. Cute little Katie Couric. All right, here we go. She uses F-bombs. She throws them really big. Here we go. So
What the fuck is going on? I had coffee with an oncology fellow about 2 months ago, and she said, I had a very rough day. I just had to tell a 21-year-old college student with no family history that he had stage 4 colorectal cancer. And I'm hearing more and more about people in their early 40s, 30s, even 20s being diagnosed with this disease at an advanced stage, often metastatic colorectal cancer. I can't even tell you guys how crushing it is. And of course, I'm excited about trying to figure out why this is happening. You know, epidemiological studies are so hard to conduct, but there is something going on in our environment.
Could it have been MNRA or MRA, whatever's the jab?
Yeah, that I don't see that, but I'll tell you, there's so many things in our food these days.
Yeah, but there's a lot of studies coming out that's saying that people are they had cancer in remission and they're being reversed now because of the stuff that was in the Pfizer jab. It went into one of your immunoreceptors and it killed it.
Yeah,
because that immunoreceptor, according to the guy that did the he was the godfather of mRNA. I can't say the word. RNA, thank you. Technology that they tried to get the mRNA into the human body and your immune system fought it. So they found out which receptor was killing it and they killed it with the medicine. So now all these people are now out of remission. Other people are getting cancers because they got the jab. I'll guarantee it's the jab.
Yeah.
But you're right about food and all. You're right.
You don't have to look that far because we know that all the artificial color sweeteners, whatever, there's so much crap in the food. So many nitrates, so many awful things.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. There's a video I just received. Trump just exposed the Pope's deleted tweets. Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. Let's get through this.
It's not just obesity or a sedentary lifestyle. You know, it's a confluence of things that include ultra-processed food, maybe microplastic.
Isn't she one of the jackasses that was against RFK Jr.? She's one of the jackasses against RFK Jr. getting the position that he's in.
I have no idea.
She was one of them. They all said, "Oh, he's not a doctor. How does he know?" Right? Well, he's the one that was pointing out, don't you want the poisons out of your food? Right?
Forever chemicals, over prescription of antibiotics.
Now,
I don't know what is happening, but something is going on. And there's 17 cancers. 17 cancers are increasing among people under 50. So what the fuck is going on?
I think she thinks throwing the F-bomb that way is going to make her seem more believable. But she's Katie Couric. Hey, he's back. What's up? We'll call you the prodigal son. What's up, Commander? Hey, man. If you're going to be around, I can talk after the show. If you want, I'll hit you up. All right, brother? If you're around. Let's see. Let me see if I can get another one. Calls for accountability, grow anything but the jab tornado project gone wrong. Yeah, this is funny. Okay, this is a funny one. I like this one. You may have to. I had to watch it a couple times to get to like actually understand it, but that's just me, right? Ready?
You guys, we have a lot of comments to get through, so let's just start. Wow, that little town really got
shafted. You got to watch it again because they don't put it on too long.
I've never seen a
tornado before. Let me start over. Ready? I'm going to start from the beginning again so you can see it. Here it is.
You guys, we have a lot of comments to get through, so let's just start. Wow, that little town really got shafted. I've never seen a size
tornado. That's pretty good. This time it's personal.
Big thanks to Mom for donating. town after 9
9 months. That's funny.
When choosing a tornado for your project.
Long and hard.
This gift right here. I'm no weatherman, but
8 inches tonight. That's funny.
Let's get ready. Storm only lasted.
Every guy knows that joke, right? All right. Sorry, guys. I just found that funny.
Yeah. So the guy says to the woman, he says, "Why do you say I'm a bad lover? I mean, you only had 2 minutes to find out."
Oh, wow. That's funny. All right. Let's see. What else is next? Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, we got some time.
Yeah, let me get down one of the main stories. Where is it? Trump tourism judge unseals the bullet. Nah, we don't want to see that. Yeah. Hold on. Nah, we don't want to do Tucker. We don't want to do that. Mom Donnie. Nah, because I can get in trouble for that. Yeah, let's do New York Times panics. They're panicking. Okay, here we go. So, the New York Times panics as Trump targets far-left terror at home and abroad. Okay. Americans were expected to swallow a lie while the truth was unfolding in plain sight. Left-wing terrorism. That, we had 4 years of warm diarrhea brains Biden saying, far right-wing extremism from those MAGA people. That's the word, saying that right-wing extremism is the worst type in the United. Are you fucking? I'm like, where are all these white? And they're saying that the white supremacists were all MAGA. Excuse me, every white supremacist I've seen on a national stage was a socialist. Every one of them. All right, left-wing terror, mass mobs shutting down streets, torching police cars, smashing businesses, intimidating political opponents, shooting a president and a Christian leader, and operating under the strong political armor that came with the ironclad legacy media protection. Groups like Antifa have been treated like some kind of untouchable class. That was just an idea. You know that, Jade, right? That was just an idea. Didn't exist. Didn't exist at all.
Anybody who says different is a bigot.
Yeah, exactly. The press softened all of it. Dems excused it, and the elites like Joe Biden played games with language so they wouldn't have to call it what it was: domestic terrorism. Now, that may finally be changing. The New York Times is very clearly upset that the Trump administration is treating far-left political violence as something more serious than random unrest. Polos. New York Times, in a major piece today, writes about efforts from Trump's State Department to investigate Antifa abroad. That's where it started, was in Europe, right? This is extremely promising. All these networks are ultimately international. When those links are established, then Antifa terrorists can be investigated, arrested, and prosecuted at home more easily. Note how they put 5 journalists on this story. They are nervous. Great work from the admin and the State Department. That's cool. So, buried inside all the hand-wringing in this piece is a very simple change of plans. Team Trump is taking left-wing politics very seriously. And if this new effort keeps up, it won't just impact the U.S., it could force all Western governments to stop pretending that organized left-wing violence is some cute little cultural show. The Times kicks things off by explaining why the foreign policy class is so jumpy. The Trump admin isn't just focused on jihadist threats. It's also telling Western allies to start taking far-left extremism seriously. See, they don't, because they're all far-left wingers. And so if that type of terrorism helps them stay in power, why are they going to go against it? And that right there has sent globalist elites into a panic, because once this kind of violence stops being treated like edgy street theater and starts being treated like ideological terrorism, the whole protection racket crumbles. From the Times, when senior Western officials in Ottawa met last month to discuss potential terrorism threats in light of the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran, the top State Department counterterrorism official delivered an unexpected message. The United States was as concerned as always about Islamist terrorism, said the official Monica A. Jacobson, according to a copy of her prepared remarks reviewed by the New York Times and 3 officials briefed in on the meeting. But she told her counterparts from Europe, Canada, and Australia the Trump administration also wanted more attention on what it believed was an insidious, underestimated threat, the far left. Now, who can argue with that? Who the hell can argue with that? They're violent people. Western governments must combat Antifa and far-left terrorism, Ms. Jacobson's prepared remarks asserted, casting the effort as an evolution in counterterrorism following the global war on terror. Her prepared speech defined far-left terrorism to include threats from communists, Marxists, anarchists, anti-capitalists, and those with eco-extremist and other self-identified anti-fascist ideologies. It is important to recognize their actions as political terrorism rather than mere protest or criminality, said her prepared remarks, though it was unclear she delivered them exactly as written. As evidence, the speech pointed to left-wing protesters who had recently clashed with police in Italy. When violence is political, organized, and used to intimidate people into submission, it's a weapon. Guys, think about it. In the middle of the St. George Floyd riots, in neighborhoods, suddenly, out of nowhere, pallets of bricks appeared in the middle of the street. Remember that? Who the hell paid for that? Left-wing billionaires. Why'd they do it? Why do you think, right? So according to, like, the right doesn't have, like, most of us are busy working. We don't have time to go out and do all that shit. My brother does, because he goes out and makes fun of the left-wingers and all their, no kings rallies and all that other bullshit. Right. But the rest of we work. We don't have time to do that shit. But these people, they get paid by the billionaires. That's how they have the time. The administration is, according to the New York Times, the administration is trying to build an actual international action plan against far left extremism. It's about time. That's a huge change in direction, and it explains why the old gray lady sounds so rattled. From the New York Times, Mrs. Jacobson's appeals were part of a sweeping new effort by the White House to press foreign governments and embassies abroad to join its fight against what it calls far-left terror. See, they don't like the far left because the only thing that's far is the far right to them. The Trump administration is deploying its global counterterrorism machine against far-left movements like Antifa, shorthand for anti-fascist, which the anti-fascists treat you like a fascist. They try to silence you, which is what fascists do, or they beat the hell out of you, which is what fascists do. Despite offering little evidence, they present a dire threat to the U.S. See, it's those little shithead comments that they have no. It's like the old, Donald Trump claimed that the state of Pennsylvania was stolen, in 2020 with no evidence. They say, with no evidence. They say when there's a shit ton of evidence. Right, but they do that just to try to bias the person that's reading. This article is based on internal State Department documents and interviews with current and former U.S. officials, as well as officials in foreign governments that were asked to aid the effort, all of whom spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive security. Yeah. Sebastian Gorka, who I like. A leader of the initiative is Sebastian Gorka, the senior counterterrorism director on President Trump's National Security Council. He has pushed to designate more far-left groups abroad as terrorist organizations to pressure foreign allies to investigate the groups and to search for connections between them and Americans. This is great news for our side because a movement that shares tactics, language, ideological cover, and political protection across borders should be treated like a cross-border problem. This is one of the most revealing parts of the article because it shows exactly what has the globalists bunch so nervous. The Times wants their readers to be scared that Team Trump may start tracing links, following networks, and asking tougher questions about who is connected to whom. I think it's because the New York Times, I believe they were connected to a lot of this stuff. That they spoke to the people, the coordinators of all this shit. Why wouldn't they? Right? They're all left-wingers. They're gonna trust the New York Times, right? That ominous sounding paragraph, let's see which one they're talking about. Although the designations generally impose financial restrictions, the administration could try to use them to expand the powers of the government to surveil, investigate, and prosecute left-wing activists on American soil. Why not? The administration, I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, these people called parents at PTA meetings terrorists, domestic terrorists. They labeled them domestic terrorists.
So,
you know, and they weren't hitting anybody. They weren't attacking anybody.
Yeah, so they can investigate and prosecute innocent people, but we can't prosecute people who've committed crimes.
Well, you say it all the time. You know, you said it tonight. You know, our speech is a crime, and their speech is free, or their violence is free speech. Our speech is violence.
Our free speech is violence, and their violence is free speech.
Exactly. That's how they think, because they're morons. You know. Mr. Gorka has repeatedly told U.S. officials that there are no lone wolves. Yeah, because they always, it's just a lone wolf. It's not a guy that's attached to Joe Biden was, it's just an idea. Wait a minute. No, it's more than an idea. Christ, they got a flag. The idea has a flag, all right?
And uniforms.
Yeah, and uniforms and shit. Yeah, exactly. According to two officials who have witnessed the comments in urging them to find links between left-wing extremists abroad and Americans, which could create a legal venue to investigate U.S. citizens. Well, yeah, if you're getting money from abroad, right, from overseas or from any other country, right, to do domestic terrorism here, and see, it kills me that the New York Times doesn't even give a shit that they're trying to stop political violence. That's what the whole thing's about. Trump wants to stop left-wing political violence. That's real. It's not bullshit like what they made up about the right. You know? Unreal. Well, we're done.
Have you ever gotten money from abroad? And if so, I want to know who she was.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke myself, but I thought I'll let you do that.
Oh, you predict me too well.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's get this one out there. Gen Z is screwed. Okay, here we go. Too soft to launch. Nah. Okay. Grant here. I think a lot of us know that Gen Z has its fair share of issues, like every generation. But recent numbers show that Gen Z could be the softest one of them all. Let's break it down. A post from X outlines Gen Z and their current plight pretty much in black and white. They're battling serious loneliness, sadness, and stalled adulthood. And this mental crisis is all happening while they're still living at home, facing housing anxiety and desperately trying to get any kind of career off the ground. They are pretty screwed. These are a lot of the numbers. Persistent sadness. I'm so sad. Right.
So these are young adults from like 18 to 26?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So some of the numbers in the tweet are mashed together a little loosely, but the overall figures are by no means made up or fake. Cigna's 2025 report found Gen Z reported the highest loneliness at 67%. And CDC data from 2023, which was under Rochelle Walensky, so don't take it seriously, found 40% of high school students reported persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. Wouldn't it be 40% of high school students every year have persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness? I mean, that's Hormone Alley is every high school, right? Pew, who I trust, the Pew Research Center, Pew also found that in 2020, 52% of adults ages 18 to 29 were living with one or both parents, the highest share since the Great Depression. And a later Pew analysis found 1 in 3 adults ages 18 to 34 were living in their parents' homes in 2021. That's because it's nearly impossible to buy a house.
Yeah, I was going to say, everything you've just read there to me is young adults from 14 to 29 reacting to the crap that the Democrats have foisted upon us.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better.
You know, inflation, inability to find a job. You can't save money. You can't buy a house.
But then there was another report that was out where these CEOs, they got together and they wrote an article, and they pointed out that the Gen Zers, they were the worst employee group that they ever hired. They said that almost 90% of them didn't know what to do. You know,
Well,
and they're like, well, wait a minute, I just got hard. What's that?
I'll tell you why, because they've gone through the current school system, and
Right.
at every stage they've been told they're the greatest thing that ever existed. They play
Right.
baseball, and you don't count how many times that you swing, because there's no outs and there's
Right.
no home runs. There's
Exactly. Everybody
and-
gets a trophy.
and everybody gets a trophy. And then, not to mention that they've also lived through Democrat propaganda about climate change. We're all going to die.
Oh yeah. There's more bullshit. They're teaching them like
COVID. We're all going to
instead
die.
instead of teaching them the things that they're supposed to know to be able to get a job or get into college. Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, they got them putting condoms on bananas and cucumbers.
No, but
the
think
proper
about it,
way to
Rich.
put a condom on. I mean,
Think about it, Rich. COVID, you're going to die. We're all going to die.
Oh yeah.
Pollution, we're all going to die. Climate
Oh,
change,
yeah.
we're all going to die. So,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah. We're all going to die of sun poison.
And
You know, because the layer, the stratosphere is wiping away because carbon is burning away at the layer.
yeah, and actually our ozone layer.
That's it. The ozone. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
And
the
it's
ozone layer is going to
repairing-
burn away when it's bullshit. But
It's repairing itself.
yeah, the sun repairs it. Ronald Reagan said that one. He did it as a joke too. He said, "Well, we took it seriously when they told us about the Mount St. Helen was the one that caused." You know, the burn in the hole, and that 6 months later it was completely covered again. But we asked the scientists, look, if we only told Republicans to stay inside so that the Democrats would all get skin cancer, you know, and everybody's laughing and shit. And he said, we were told by the scientists that it can't happen. It's impossible because every minute of every day, the sun is refortifying the ozone layer. So within 6 months, that hole was closed up. What happened was Ronald Reagan found out that we were paying grants to all these universities for the same thing. So he said, wait, let's have a pentagon of certain things for each college to have. That way we're not crisscrossing. So he was cutting funding from a lot of schools. Well, the school that talked about the hole in the ozone layer, that actually fucking Democrats made laws about it. Like you used to be able to go in and buy a can of Freon in Pep Boys or, you know, auto parts, whatever, and put it in yourself for your air conditioner in your car. Well, because of that ozone thing, now you got to, well, it was $50 if you run out. I lease cars, so I don't even know how long it would take to run. But you can, I mean, Commander would tell us you no longer, all right, you no longer can get it and do it yourself. You have to have them do it, and they have to have a special machine so the fluorocarbons won't get out. Even though that type of Freon was not what caused the ozone layer, it was the eruption of Mount St. Helen caused it, which is like more powerful than lightning.
You can't even buy Freon. Like
Right, that's what I'm saying. You got to have your mechanic do it now.
But it's not Freon.
And it's, well, I know. It's all because of the sky is falling, Chicken Little stuff that happened. But the whole thing, what Reagan proved was that university reported it the way they did because they were losing their funding. All right. And they wanted to prove that without funding, we could all die of skin cancer. So you should give us the money. He said, screw you, you're not getting the money. Because he realized, you know, that it was bullshit. All right, the debriefing here. It's actually pretty ironic that Gen Z is struggling this much. After all, this is the generation raised inside the most padded, optimized, hyper-connected environment in history. They grew up with endless entertainment, instant delivery, algorithmic personalization, constant contact, and a culture obsessed with comfort and self-expression. Spoiled, rotten brats. And yet, instead of producing a generation that feels secure, capable, and socially anchored, they're all restless, lonely, fragile, and weirdly unable to handle ordinary adult life. And what was the age? 18 to what? 25?
14 to 29.
Yeah, see, my son, my youngest, is in that group, and he's the most responsible young man I've ever seen. The one that's serving in the Army. I've never seen a kid like that clean cut. Unbelievable. All right. The fact is that so it's not all Gen Z. It's just the ones that buy into the ones that have liberal parents. All right. The fact is that because this generation was raised on ease, stimulation, and emotional cushioning, They're not able to handle the real world. Yeah, they said, like back to the CEOs, they said, we had people that came in and they didn't want to work. They didn't understand that work meant you actually had to do something for the company. They thought they were supposed to get a paycheck just for showing up. And they had no idea what it meant to be on time for work. They just didn't care. And when they got fired, they're like, well, and some of them, when they got fired, they brought their mothers in with them to argue for their jobs back. I mean, my God. And they weren't the slightest bit embarrassed by that. All right. A world that still demands resilience, discipline, delayed gratification, and some tolerance for boredom, rejection, and uncertainty. Being given access to everything isn't going to help anyone learn how to actually build a life or any semblance of independence. So yes, the economy matters, housing matters, and yes, the launch pad into adult life is shakier and more expensive than it used to be. No one's arguing with that. But seriously, Gen Z, maybe it's time to spend less time at the therapist office and more time pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Now you know they were raised to be comfortable, not to be steady. Exactly. I've read other reports, but that was put pretty well.
What about, okay, this has got to be good. Maybe it'll be the last one.
What's that?
The in-vehicle toilets.
Oh, yeah.
We have to look at that. Come on.
Right? Oh, I know. Yeah, it's a Chinese thing. Hold on. Let me, hold on. There it is. They're coming soon.
I mean, honestly, if you're going on a trip, I don't want to stop at one of those stations and use one of those toilets. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's bring it up.
Now, I'm not even talking about the crime that happens there. You go into them and
there you go. Plop. Go ahead.
They look really bad. Have you ever seen the movie Train Spotting?
No.
Now it's I believe it's Scottish, and I didn't manage to get through more than the first bit of it. But
oh, really?
The first bit of it has a really wonderful bathroom scene, and it's like the most devastatingly horrible bathroom you've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm sure. I used to work. Ladies, close your ears. I used to work for a bar in the morning. I would do the cleanup Saturday morning because Friday night, everybody's out late, and so I had to clean the bathrooms. The men's room was bad enough, but the ladies' room, oh my God. Those women were absolute pigs. They would fill the trash cans to the lid. Then you would see dirty, I can't even say it here. You ladies know what I'm talking about. On the counter, on the vanity top, like next to the sink, shit all over, not literal, but shit all over the floor. They were filthy. Now the men's bathroom, a couple of guys may have missed a couple of times with their aim, right? But there was no trash all over the floors, lipstick, right? Well, they don't wear that, written on the windows and stuff like that. I mean, there was nothing like that. Hey, take two drums. What's going on, brother? Good to see you, man. Good to see you here.
Hey, share my screen for a second.
Sure. Here we go. Before present, hold on. Oh, I got to get rid of this. All right, I got to end mine first. Hold on. How the hell do I do that? Let me see. Stop sharing. Okay. So now we bring yours up. There it is. Okay, what's that? Oh, toilets. Oh, look at this. Oh,
this is from Train Spotting. You can see the lovely.
Oh God, I don't want to watch that.
Lovely.
I don't know if we're allowed to show something like that.
And this is from the movie Train Spotting.
Oh wow,
it's really lovely.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, you decided to cut.
Yikes!
That one off. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't want. Yikes.
Yeah, I didn't get through that movie.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm going to be able to do this one though. I just thought it was funny. Plop, plop, whiz, whiz. In vehicle toilets are coming soon. Look at this. Watch. So, well, humanity had a good run, guys. That's the best way to start this. But just when it seemed like car makers had finally run out of goofy gimmicks to cram into vehicles, along comes the next great leap forward in automotive innovation, the car toilet. Now, can you imagine having to clean that out, Commander? Can you imagine that?
It gives going to the service station a whole new meaning.
Yeah, it does. Hold on. I just got something. Hang on.
Because you realize you can't just plop this onto the road. You got to have a holding tank.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, yep. Now you can really go from 0 to 60 while sitting on your own personal porcelain throne built right into the seat. The lucky passengers in the back are sure to love that little feature. And look, to be fair, there's a tiny sliver of logic here. If somebody is driving late at night, stuck in the middle of nowhere, or parked somewhere that feels a little sketchy, the idea of not having to sprint into a gas station bathroom that looks and smells like a crime scene does have some legit appeal. But still, there's a big difference between I can see the use and please let me unbutton my pants and go number 2, 5 inches from the cup holder. Because once the novelty wears off, the questions start to kick in. Who exactly wants their car to become a rolling restroom? Exactly. Chinese automaker Series has patented what it calls an in-vehicle toilet. And yes, it appears to be exactly what it sounds like, a crapper built into your seat. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. Wow. All right. Okay, maybe it doesn't look quite like that. All right. The Chinese, from the BBC, Chinese carmaker Series has been granted a patent for what it calls an in-vehicle toilet that slides under the passenger seat for visits to the loo while on the road. The feature is meant to satisfy users' toilet needs on long journeys while camping or while staying in the car, engineers wrote in Series patent filing in China on April 10. Series based, and they probably have a little device where they can spy on you. All right, Series based in the southwest city of Chongqing, has not announced any cars that have toilets and is uncertain if any will actually be made. Chinese electric vehicles have become increasingly packed with unconventional features like built-in massage seats, karaoke systems, and a fridge to stand out in a highly competitive market.
Well, heck, you got to keep your beer cold.
Yeah, exactly. The modern car arms race has officially gone from horsepower to horse manure. This video, we got to see this.
If you've ever dreamed of having a toilet in your car, your wish might just come true. The Chinese company Sarah has just patented a slide-out toilet system built into one of the rear seats. It features an odor absorber and a removable sealed container for easy emptying. You'll likely see it as an option in 8 cars, including their flagship M9 SUV. Would you actually use it?
Oh my goodness. I would not. I can say that. Sure, this might sound handy in theory, but when push comes to shove, pardon the pun, this feels like one of those ideas that gets a whole lot less magical, and the second real human beings have to pull down their britches and take care of business. Again, to be fair, there's definitely a narrow lane where this could make sense. Nobody's saying bladder pressure is a joke, and there are absolutely moments when not having to get out of the car could be useful. But good grief, I love the good grief, but good grief, the trade-off is a lot. Clothes, privacy, smell, cleanup, and the horrifying fact that every passenger now knows your car is one flush away from becoming a rolling porta potty. So yes, points for creativity, guys, but this feels a lot less like the future of driving and more like something dreamed up by a guy who really, really didn't want to stop at Buc-ee's. That's pretty funny.
Well, I showed you the pictures why I don't like stopping at some of those roadside stops.
Oh man, that was pretty horrendous. But let me see something. I got something else.
Funny story out of the Gulf War that I heard. The guys they had to fly helicopters with their mop gear, the chemical biological protection.
Oh, okay.
And inside, I mean, given that it was like 112 to 120 degrees with all this stuff on, they did have cooling vests, but the bottom line, it was hot. So they would drink a lot of Gatorade. And what you do is you have your Gatorade on one side. And at that time, it was pretty much all men. So you would take the empty Gatorade bottle and do your number one into the empty Gatorade bottle, and you'd put it on the other side. You don't want to get the sides mixed up.
I believe so. Yes.
And you know what you never do? You never buy the lemon Gatorade.
Because you never know.
Because you never know.
Yeah. Me and my cat in the open road. That's pretty good. Let me do one more. I got a video. Hold on. Sir, you're doing it wrong. This is a good one. People are so and I don't think this was a setup. You decide, you guys. Ready?
You're a dumbass. You're a dumbass. You're grade A, number one, bona fide first class. You're a dumbass.
Look what he's doing. He's using a saw, but instead of sawing, he's not even holding the right side. Let's do it again.
You're a dumbass. You're a dumbass.
No, I think he's running it across the teeth, but
that is really loud. What's that?
I think he's running it across the teeth of the saw.
I don't know.
Well, look, if you look at the shape of the handle.
Yeah.
But flip that over. That's how you would hold it.
No, but see, look below it. See, I see the teeth right there below it.
I don't think so.
The below part.
I think the teeth.
What it looks like.
Just look at the handle.
Yeah, I saw the handle.
The handle is designed to be the other way.
You're a dumbass.
Well, he's still a dumbass. Come on, let's agree. Let's agree to that.
Yeah, I mean,
for goodness sake.
Good, over the top.
He's still a dumbass.
All right, Rich.
Yeah. All right. Is that it? You calling it?
I think my ass alarm has gone off.
All right. Her ass alarm has gone off, guys, and we can't have that. You can't fix stupid, but you can still bill it. That's right. Super dangerous. Oh, wow. All right, guys. Do me a favor. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Please, it helps us. Start watching my videos, too. I'm getting some that are going viral and others that are getting like 2 people. I don't know what's going on with the algorithm. I used to average a lot more, and now something's going on. So I don't know. Guys, help me out here. Watch my videos during the week. Comment. Do whatever you can. But tell your friends. Let me see. 40. I'm going to send you, if you're still here, I'm going to send you an email about next Saturday. All right? Because I don't know if I'm still supposed to do the show because you had asked me, but maybe you got someone else. But I got a wedding to go to next Saturday, so I won't be around. I completely forgot about it. Sorry. I'll send you the email anyway in case you're not here. Thanks. Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, we love all you guys, man. Take care. Commander, I'll look you up in about 10 minutes if you got time. If not, don't worry. Just let it ring.
Everybody right. Come back next week and bring a friend.
Yeah. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the heat for now. Yeah. Hold on. Play the ad where the guy farted when the date got. Oh, that's funny. No, I don't have it. We got to run, guys. All right. Thank you so much for spending these 3 hours with us. We love you all, man.
Take care of Rich for me next week. I won't be here for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be touring the Southeast.
That's right. I'm going to be bringing someone else in if that person agrees to come on, which we're going to have a fun time.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
We're going to be doing South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So
awesome. You have a good time. All right. All right. I'll talk to you guys. See you later. Have a good night. Bye.